Okay. Let's see. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all out there. Want to do a few shout outs real quick. Been a while since we've seen each other. Shout out to Rolling Water. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Handyman, sorry I wasn't able to make it, but we'll see you tomorrow for the member stream. V says I'm getting late. It's getting late, but can't watch tomorrow. Well, hope you're doing well, V. Good to see you. Thank you. And thank you for the nice message the other day. Appreciate you. Unlimited Liquid, welcome. Wildly, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Trees, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Ryan, hello. Welcome. Glad to have you with us, my friend. True Detective, good to see you. Thanks for joining tonight. Always good to see you. Pure Water, always great to see you too. Welcome. Lawrence, thank you so much for the kind super chat, my friend. Appreciate you all. And welcome, my friend. Let's see. Oh, what am I doing here? Veracity Media, great to see you, my friend. Welcome. Hope all is well as on your end. Games Dog, hey, good to see you, my friend. Says hi all. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Rolling Water, thank you so much for the kind super chat as well. Appreciate you. Very much appreciated. And I think that's Eli. Hey, Eli, good to see you. Welcome, my friend. Uni, welcome. Glad to have you with us. Andre, welcome. Great to see you, sister. Neo, good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Mao, awesome. Good to see you. Says hello, FC and friends. Good to be here with you. The Mao Man. And Ace, good to see you. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. And I hope I'm not skipping over anybody, but Boopster, hey, good to see you. Welcome, sister. And Deluxe, welcome. Good to have you with us. Vargas, hello. Great to see you. And anyone else who may be in the background or maybe watching the replay or on alternative platforms. All right, so let's try to get into this. And just as a reminder before we get started, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only. It's always important to do your own research and come up with your own conclusion. Okay. So, what we're going to be doing is getting into part 3. Hey, everybody. Great to see you. Of Your Past Lives by Michael Talbot. He is, again, the same author who wrote the book on the Holographic Universe. And hell of a book. Really should check that one out. And obviously we're going over this one. Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. Let me shut off the music here. Sorry about that. So yeah, we're going to get right into it. We left off in part 2 about meditation. And so I just backed it up just for like flow purposes, about maybe a minute and a half or two. So if you're kind of watching through the playlist, replay down the road, you may hear a little bit of a repeat, but it's only about a minute and a half or two, just to kind of have everything be a little bit fluid here. All right, so let's get into it.
That you should know. In its simple.
Oh, hold on, that's a little low. Hold on here. Always something. If I told you the shit that was going on before I started the stream today.
Simplest terms, meditation is the ability to relax and concentrate your attention on one thing to the exclusion of all else. To do this, it will be necessary for you to master the ability to control and quiet the chatter of your everyday thoughts, to relax
Don't
and
worry,
to
I'll speed it
completely
up.
dispel any physical or emotional tensions that you might have. Although various techniques to accomplish these tasks will be given in this section, it is important that you keep in mind that there is no single correct way to meditate. If you find that one approach doesn't work, don't be afraid to mix and match techniques from various procedures to suit your own personal requirements. Similarly, don't be afraid to come up with your own technique. Just as everyone prefers a different sleeping position and a different hardness or softness of mattress, everyone must also find their own approach to achieving a meditative state. Creating the right atmosphere. Some people assume that they must be sitting in a lotus position in order to be able to meditate, but this is not the case. You may find that sitting in a lotus position.
Now, this was something I talked about for quite a few years with you guys. It's really important, and I may have touched on it in the last video, and I apologize for getting a repeat, but it's really important. If you are taking up meditation, there's so much shit out there about, oh, you've got to be in the lotus position, you do this, so, yeah, everything's got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? You just have to be comfortable, and not too comfortable, but comfortable enough, and whatever works for you, right? If it's too comfortable, so what? You might fall asleep sometimes, no big deal. But, you don't have to go crazy. Just find something that's comfortable for you so you can achieve it. That's all.
Helps you meditate, or you may find that you have better results if you sit in an easy chair or lie down on a couch. I personally prefer to lie on a carpeted floor when I meditate, but you should experiment and find the position that suits you best. One word of advice. Many experts advise against trying to meditate while lying in bed because its association with sleep tends to make the mind bypass the meditative state.
And I'm just going to kind of add on that is with, and I don't think I touched on this in the last one, but if I do it, I apologize. It's really important too, like with trying to achieve an out-of-body experience, if you're doing the wake to sleep method especially, that you don't go back to your bed. Because again, it's associated with sleep, like he said, you get way too comfortable and you can end up falling asleep. So it's about achieving that brainwave state, but in an area that sure is comfortable, but it's not super comfortable and associated with sleep, that's all.
And drift off to sleep.
Makes a big difference.
You may also find that it is easier for you to meditate when there is a stick of incense burning, or having an unobtrusive background sound, such as a recording of the ocean or a gentle summer rain, may help you relax. However, it is advisable to turn off the recording after you are in a meditative state, or the sound may unduly color your past life impressions. Refer to Chapter 1 for more ideas on creating the best setting for meditation. Learning how to meditate. If you have never meditated before, don't expect to be able to master it immediately. In a state of deep meditation, you should feel incredibly peaceful, relaxed, and unworried. If you go through the steps of placing yourself in a meditative state, but find that you are still fidgety, tense, or concerned about something going on in your life, you have not yet accomplished your task. Another indication that you still have some work ahead of you is if you find that your thoughts continually stray from the object of your meditation. For example, if after the first 20 seconds of a breathing exercise, you find yourself thinking about your finances or some other aspect of your worldly life, you have not yet learned to quiet your thoughts and enter a state of meditation. Don't be surprised if this happens, because learning how to keep your thoughts focused on one thing for an extended period of time is by no means as easy as it seems. If you find that it is difficult for you to shut out the world and quiet the constant interruption of your own thoughts,
don't become discouraged. In certain ways, the mind is very much like a muscle, And just as you cannot run a marathon or play a piece by Chopin the first time out, it may take a bit of practice before you learn how to control your own thinking processes and keep your mind from perpetually carrying on a running conversation with itself. As a preliminary exercise, spend a few moments a day staring at a candle flame and try to think of nothing but the flame. Don't think of the flame in terms of words like flame, red, or flickering, but try to contemplate it without using words. Think only of its essence and see how many seconds you can do this before a stray thought pops into your mind. When one does, push it back out and carry on with your contemplation. Start out by doing this for a few minutes a day, and keep it up until you can stare at the candle flame for 10 minutes or longer without thinking of any other thoughts. When you are able to do this, you have developed your powers of concentration enough that you should have little trouble achieving a meditative state. If you find that you still have difficulty quieting your thoughts, another exercise that you might try is to spend 10 minutes or so continuously moving every muscle of your body. Stand up, move around, flex all of your fingers, wave your arms, jog in place, shake your head, make sounds with your mouth, and keep every muscle in your body as active and as busy as you can manage. Then, after you have done this for about 10 minutes, stop suddenly and quickly lie down, pushing every extraneous thought out of your mind as you do so. Concentrate only on the sense of relief you feel at being able to stop and on your breath as it flows in and out, but don't think of either of these things in terms of words or sentences. Simply feel them and see how long you can maintain your meditation. Learning how to visualize. Virtually all of the past life meditative techniques that will be given in this book require that you be able to visualize certain objects and scenes very clearly in your mind's eye. If you find that you have difficulty doing this, your problem may be due to an inability to focus your concentration, so the meditation exercises will still apply. However, if you find that you can easily become very relaxed and quiet your thoughts, but have trouble conjuring up some of the required visual images, you may have to exercise your visualization muscles as well. One way to do this is to make yourself comfortable in a quiet and dimly lit room. Then close your eyes and try to imagine what the room looks like without opening them. Slowly and carefully sketch every feature of the room in your mind's eye, and don't let the image be replaced by any other imaginings. If you have to, take a peek to see if you missed something, but then quickly close your eyes and continue with the procedure, making your mental image as real as possible and holding it for as long as you can. As another exercise, imagine that you are gazing at a blackboard in a classroom and you have a piece of chalk in your hand. Then reach out and write a sentence on the blackboard, such as, "Mary had a little lamb." Try to feel the texture of the chalk in your hand and feel yourself writing with it. Watch every stroke and observe how you make each letter. When you have finished, step back and look at the entire sentence as you have written it on the blackboard. Approach the blackboard again and write the next sentence of the nursery rhyme beneath the first, and then the next, filling the board with as many sentences as you can hold unwaveringly in your mind. Once you have mastered these techniques, you are ready to go on and try an actual past life meditation. Basic past life meditation. Like most preparations for past life meditations, the following instructions for a basic past life meditation requires an induction image. This is a scene that you will visualize during the course of the meditation and which will help you open the door to one of your past life memories. In the following instructions, I have used the induction image of a tunnel. However, there are many images that may be substituted in this basic meditation.
Oh yeah, well, we can substitute the tunnel, just for obvious purposes.
And a list of some others, as well as their various pros and cons, will be given after the description of the basic technique. Step 1. Choose a place to meditate. Choose a place to meditate according to the guidelines discussed in Chapter 1. Step 2. Start to relax by emptying your mind and slowing your rate of breathing. As soon as you have settled into your meditation position, empty your mind of all extraneous thoughts and start to relax by regulating your breathing. Breathe in and out in long, slow, and steady breath. Focus for a few moments on keeping your breathing as deep, unstrained, and relaxed as possible. As with the relaxation technique employed in the chapter on dreams, continue to maintain a slow and even breathing pace throughout the duration of your meditation. Step 3. Tell yourself that all of your daily concerns and worries are leaving you. Tell yourself that your mind is uncluttered and very much at peace, and that no intrusive thoughts will disturb you as you continue to go deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation. Step 4. Talk to each part of your body and tell it to relax. Begin by telling your toes, either mentally or aloud, that they are completely relaxed and that all tension, muscle aches, and pains are seeping out of them. Continue to breathe in slow, steady, and unstrained exhalations as
So what you're doing really is like a self-hypnosis program on yourself, you know?
pains are seeping out of them. Continue to breathe in slow, steady, and unstrained exhalations as you imagine your toes becoming so relaxed that you can barely feel them. Once this is accomplished, do the same thing with the rest of your feet. Continue the process with your legs, lower arms, upper arms, back, and neck. Finally, tell yourself that your entire body is now so completely relaxed that all you are aware of is your head, and that it, too, is so relaxed and at peace that it feels like it is floating on a beautiful bed of cloud. Step 5. Tell your unconscious what you want to accomplish when you are in a deeply relaxed state. Tell your unconscious mind what you hope to accomplish during your meditation. You should do this out loud, speaking in a slow, steady voice, and remembering that your unconscious mind takes everything literally. For example, you might ask your unconscious mind to show you a past life memory that it would be beneficial for you to be aware of. Or you may have a more specific question such as, "Show me the life in which I first met my current husband." Or, "Tell me if a dream I keep having has any past life significance." Or, "Show me a past life experience in which I learned something that will help me get through this crisis." Step 6. Ask your inner self for protection. Once you have outlined specific goals for yourself, remind your unconscious mind to show you only those memories that you will be able to experience without discomfort or anxiety. Again, it is important that you speak out loud when you do this. Tell your unconscious mind that if it must show you an unpleasant memory, it should do so in a way that is gentle and will not cause you any pain. Stress that you only want to know those things that you are ready to see and which will further the growth and happiness of all concerned. At this point, ask the guardian figure that you have chosen for yourself, your superego, oversoul, spirit guides, or religious entity, to watch over and protect you as you journey into your psyche. As you continue to breathe slowly and deeply, surround yourself with a circle of protective white light. Imagine that each exhalation of your breath is itself a luminous mist and adds to the light. Ask your guardian figure to see that the white light is maintained throughout your meditation and that it protects you from all harmful influences, real or imagined.
Now, obviously, you could take this and tweak it to something else. It doesn't have to be a white light. You know, I always talk about how, and apply this, how I'm putting like a bubble of protection around me. An impenetrable barrier is the best way to put it. And you know, it doesn't have to be a white light of protection or go into a tunnel or anything like that. It's just about you hypnotizing yourself to achieve potential results and answers about past lives, or just to achieve like an enjoyable meditative state that could sometimes be very profound. So again, tweak this to your own needs. Don't take what he's saying and say, "Oh, if I've got to do it this way, I'm going to fail." No, that's complete bull. You do not need to do what he's saying. This is just kind of an example of, and this is used a lot, right? I mean, if you run across a lot of regression tracks and all this stuff, even meditation, guided meditations, a lot of people who put scripts out, it involves like a protective white light or something like that. You don't need that. You don't. So just please keep that in mind. Do what you want to do for yourself and edit accordingly. Remember, this is your sovereign decision making on how you want to go forward with all this.
Step 7. Enter an even deeper state of relaxation and then visualize yourself entering a tunnel beyond which you will see one of your past lives. Tell yourself now that at the count of 5.
Okay, so instead of like a tunnel, guys, you can just say, "Oh, well, I want to look through a window," right? Or I'm looking into a mirror, or I'm looking into the sky, and the clouds are going to provide, an input, right? It doesn't have to be a tunnel or this or that. This is a method that's been used and pushed to high hell. So that's why I'm just really emphasizing this. Make it your own, even something like I said, like staring through an imaginary window, or opening an imaginary window. And when you start to induce yourself by opening the window, that provides the pathway to answers, right? Something like that.
Beyond which you will see one of your past lives. Tell yourself now that at the count of 5 you are going to enter an even deeper state of relaxation. Then recite the following either mentally or aloud. 1. I am becoming more relaxed than I have ever been. 2. All cares and worries have now left me, and my body is so buoyant that it is floating on a bed of clouds. 3. At the count of 5, I will be deeply and completely relaxed. 4. 5. As soon as you have reached 5, imagine that your body has actually floated up from its bed of cloud. Imagine that you feel a gentle breeze and see the clouds swirling gracefully around you. As you continue to move through the clouds, imagine that you see a long tunnel before you, a tunnel composed entirely of beautiful swirling clouds. Because you are weightless, you are able to enter the cloud and walk along its misty surface. As you continue to walk, tell yourself that at the end of the tunnel you are going to witness a past life scene or memory about yourself. Then imagine...
Now, see, that's what it's all about. Like, by doing certain steps, again, that you can lay out your own script for, you can research and look at other scripts and kind of compile your own, add some, subtract some, however you want to do it. And then by doing a certain action, when you're at a specific state, then by doing that action, it will in turn show you your past lives or whatever you may be trying to get at. If you're just trying to hypnotize yourself for other reasons, I don't know what those might be, but there's a wide variety of reasons. But yeah, just keep that in mind, guys. That's all.
That you see the end of the tunnel coming into sight. As you continue to walk toward it, don't worry if you do not immediately see anything. Be completely at peace, and when you reach the end of the tunnel, quickly look down at your feet and see what they look like. Perhaps you will see them wearing leather sandals, or perhaps they will be bare. Look at your legs and see what sort of clothing you are wearing, and then look up at your surroundings. If you don't see anything, don't worry. Be patient and, above all, don't try to force an image. You may instantly start to see a past life scenario unfolding before you like a movie, or you may flash on a single image, a face, a domestic scene, or a house. Your unconscious mind will show you what it is necessary for you to see. It is important that you maintain an attitude of utter peace and calm as you simply sit back and let it lead the way. Choosing a different induction image. If you have practiced learning both how to relax and how to visualize, and have become skilled at the art of meditation, you will probably see at least a few past life images your first time out. Indeed, many people see quite vivid and complex past life scenarios the first time they try this technique. However, if you do not receive any past life information initially, practice the technique a few times. Then, if you still have problems, try using a different induction image. For example, instead of visualizing a tunnel of swirling clouds, visualize a tunnel that is composed of some other material, such as a tunnel built out of a beautiful bower of trees. If the image of a tunnel does not work for you, you can
Yeah, it doesn't work for us.
also try some of the other popular induction images listed below. Hallway meditation. Imagine yourself walking down a long hallway or down a long set of stairs with a door at the bottom. Some researchers suggest that the past life explorer envisioned the hallway as being filled with many doors, each one opening onto a past life memory. One visualization image that has proved quite effective for me is to imagine myself in a mansion in which each room contains one of my past lives. This image was first suggested to me by a dream I had, although the biblical line, "In my Father's house are many mansions," a phrase that many have interpreted as alluding to reincarnation, adds a further veneer of meaning which may increase its appeal for you. Of course, your powers of concentration and visualization must be finely honed to be able to conjure up such an image at first, but once you get the hang of it, the imaginary surroundings you build around yourself will take on a life of their own. Elevator meditation. Another popular induction image is an elevator in which you are either ascending or descending, whichever you prefer, to one of your previous incarnations. Decide on which floor your past life experience is going to take place and envision the floor indicator moving slowly until you reach that floor and the doors open. Time machine meditation. Another image that I discovered lends itself very well to past life meditation is a time machine. I prefer to visualize the one from the movie of the H.G. Wells novel by that name, but a time machine from any of your favorite time travel movies or television shows, such as the time-traveling phone booth from the British television series Doctor Who, will suffice. One appealing feature of a time machine is the clock it often has on its control panel, the hands of which spin rapidly backwards as the device hurtles back through time. When visualized, this image is an especially powerful psychological cue for instructing your unconscious mind that you wish to go back to one of your previous existences. To use a time machine as an induction image after you are in a state of deep meditation, get into the machine and tell it to take you to one of your previous lives. Concentrate especially on the clock moving backwards as the machine takes you back through the mists of time. After it has landed, or after you have willed it to land, simply wait for the mists to clear and proceed as with the other meditations above. Creating your own induction image. Whether you are meditating alone or being talked through a guided meditation, one of the most important keys to success is that you feel absolutely comfortable about the induction image being employed. If you have claustrophobia, it is probably not a good idea to use a tunnel or other enclosed image. Another potential problem facing the would-be past life explorer is that some induction images may have undiscovered and unpleasant past life associations. For example, New York past life therapist Roger Woolger frequently uses the image of a bridge when guiding his patients through past life meditations. However, he told me that he has occasionally run into problems when patients suddenly remember being killed on bridges in former lifetimes. His wife, Jennifer Woolger, also a past life therapist, says that she has encountered similar difficulties when using the image of a boat and even an elevator, and both agree that no single image is foolproof. Thus, before you embark on a past life meditation, you may try to sense any past life resonance for a particular image, or consult your unconscious mind with a pendulum to see if the image you have chosen is right for you. If you are not comfortable with any of the images suggested in this chapter, you should make up your own image: a boat traveling to a magical island, a pillared colonnade in the middle of a flower-filled meadow, or even a cosmic television set whose different channels each contain one of your past lives. Similarly, you might ask your unconscious mind to give you an image that is right for you during one of your meditations or in a dream. Mirror meditation. There is a variation on the solo technique that I discovered quite by accident and which can be astonishingly effective, performing a past life meditation in front of a mirror. I have since discovered that various other researchers have also employed this technique. To perform a mirror meditation, situate yourself in front of a large mirror and then go to steps 1 through 6 of the basic past life meditation. You will also need some light to perform the meditation. Dim light works best, such as the light provided by a candle.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause it. First, I wanted to say thank you to B-Arc for the kind super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Says, great to see you back, FC. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat. And wanted to go to... okay, we're going to go to John B's comment and then Neo Ace's comment. John B said, "The Matrix tries to make me stop meditating by surprising me with startling telepathic voices that tease me about my ignorance on the subject." Okay, so meditation has that effect, and it's not necessarily about your ignorance on the soul trap, I'm guessing you're saying, or something, and like that's what it's trying to do, or they're trying to do. When you meditate, you know, it's not like a lot of these people out there, guys, these gurus and clowns out there, they try to make meditation seem like it's just this incredible, amazing, blissful experience all the time. It's not, right? I mean, like, that's the bottom line, and I've talked about that quite a few times on the channel. You can run into really rough situations, rough realizations. You can hear nasty things being flung your way telepathically. It's just the nature of the beast of meditation, but I think the positives outweigh the amount of negatives that are there, right? I mean, I think when it's dark, it could be really dark, and then it could just be, you know, some almost like ball breaking, like you were saying, John, like, oh, it's teasing of your ignorance. But you know what, like, you could do you could have a few bad sessions like that, and then you can have like 10 really profound, peaceful, relaxing, or maybe even blissful, or even void-like experiences. And those are that's what we're there for, right? And I tend to look at meditation as almost like a training ground for us guys. It's a way to almost prepare ourselves. Like, you know, it's like, because remember, you can you could shut these things down, right? But if you let exterior things like get to your head too much, then things can kind of fall off the rails. So it's almost like a good training technique for when we actually leave here. Because it's non-interference, right? I think obviously there's still this connection to the body. Even if we're meditating and leaving the body and all that stuff, there is still a connection here, right? There's still something here that we're connected to. We can call it the cord if you want. Some people see it, some people don't. But I mean, that's really the bottom line with meditation, guys. It's really, You can have some rough sessions and you can have a lot of good ones, decent ones, peaceful ones, relaxing ones, etc. Kind of like all the stuff I just said. So don't let it discourage you. And if you find yourself having, a rough go at it, multiple meditation sessions, take a break. That's all. Take a break. And if you're not in like the best headspace going into a meditation, maybe that's not the right time to meditate, even though some people would say the opposite, right? I mean, you got to use your better judgment in that one. But I hope that helped a little bit, John. I also wanted to go to Neo Ace, and he said, okay, so Michael Talbot mentioned using a pendulum. Neo says, I used to use one all the time, but I started to worry I didn't know what I was speaking with and stopped. Yes, a very good point. And, dowsing rods, pendulum, all that stuff. If you give it too much power, too much, some people have talked about pendulums and dowsing rods like they are truth, 100% truth, and this and that. Well, they're just not. So the thing is they can start to have like a psychological effect on us, because when there are a number of things becoming true, or that are factual, or that they lead to something interesting, or give you confirmation bias, I think that's when that's like the lure, you know what I'm saying? And it gets really weird and interesting, but it can also get ahead of us. So I totally respect that decision, Neo Ace. Totally get it. You do what you feel is best, my friend. But yeah, I don't use them. Pendulum. I have dowsing rods. I have pendulum too, but usually use dowsing rods, and I'll use them a few times a month. Right? Nothing major. Sometimes if there's something going on, I might use them a little bit more in a month, but usually a few times. But like, a lot of interesting things can happen, to say the least. And it's weird with them, because I think that, again, because we're here, we're having this like heavily filtered human experience. We're putting our intention, our preconceived ideas, notions, whatever, about pendulums, dowsing rods, things we've heard, things we've learned, different suggestions on how to use them, etc. Like, we kind of have this weird, again, intention or creator being thing put into them. And I think the Matrix somehow takes advantage of that, right? Our signals cross, right? I guess that's the best way to put it. So again, make of all that what you will, but that's just my opinion on it. In some respects, they're very helpful, but I think if you let them get ahead of you, they can do some damage, and it can get really bad really quick. But when I say really bad really quick, it still takes time to lead up to that. But depending on what your headspace, where your head is at the time, it could have some really serious consequences. And I'm not at all saying this so that people don't use them and utilize them for here and there. But if like you're using them for all sorts of decisions, life choices, whatever, and every time you got a question, you're busting them out, or if like you're allowing them to guide you in certain directions that could have negative influences on you here, then that's when things get a little dicey and you got to be careful. So just my opinions on it.
When you have completed the basic meditation, instead of moving on to step 7 and an induction image, open your eyes and meditate on your own reflection in the mirror mentally telling yourself that soon your features will start to change and you will see yourself as you looked in one of your previous incarnations. A word of caution. During this meditation, you may see some extremely dramatic changes take place in your features. This can be quite frightening. Only perform a mirror meditation if you feel completely comfortable with this prospect. At any point during the meditation, if you become disturbed by seeing your own features change, simply end your meditation and turn a light on, and the process will stop. What to do if you can't summon up a past life memory? If the basic meditation technique doesn't prove effective for you and changing your induction image doesn't help, there are several things you can try. First, pay close attention to the thoughts and feelings you experience while you meditate. Are you actually relaxed? Are you truly able to concentrate and keep your mind focused on the visualization image you have chosen? Or do you find that a host of trivial and everyday thoughts still constantly interrupt you as you meditate? If this is the case, you simply have not yet achieved the necessary state of meditation and you need more practice. Trying too hard can also be a problem. Sometimes people get so nervous and filled with anticipation at the prospect of learning about their past lives that their excitement actually blocks the process. If you have reason to suspect that this may be your problem, try to take a more leisurely attitude toward your past life explorations. During step 6 of your meditation, after you have asked your unconscious mind to shield you against memories that are too painful for you to deal with, ask your mind to help you be patient. Tell yourself that whether you relive a past life memory in this meditation or the next one, you are willing to wait, and that you understand that even though you are not consciously aware of it, your unconscious mind may be helping to bring about changes within your psyche that will better prepare you to relive such memories. Remember also that the key to success lies in not thinking about what you are going to find waiting for you at the end of a tunnel or through a doorway. Don't try to second-guess your unconscious mind. Let it do the work. If you follow this advice and still have no success, it may be that solo meditation just simply isn't the path for you. If this seems to be the case, experiment with other approaches. For example, an individual who does not have success meditating alone may find it easier to enter a state of past life awareness when assisted by another person. Exercises for 2 or more individuals will be given in part 2. Once you have become adept at the
Okay, the one thing I want to add is 2 is okay. That means one-on-one, right? And having a facilitator help you, whether it's meditation, past life regression, whatever it may be. I personally do not believe in group meditation anymore. I don't think it's a good thing. And this is just my opinion, right? Some of you may do it. You know, some of you may meet like with groups every once in a while and do that. That's fine. You know, if you're getting benefits off it, that's what matters. But in my opinion, over the years, I've come, and this is after, you know, going to various retreats and Buddhist temples, Zen Buddhist temples and Tibetan temples and doing group meditations. Sometimes they're fine, right? But I've also found that it feels like there's a lot of busyness, and I think it's like the energy in the room. You have, you know, say you're sitting in a room with 15, 20 people, right? In a circle or, you know, in a few rows of chairs or something, and everyone's meditating. Everyone's getting into a meditative state. I feel like, and this is only like looking back at things, I started to kind of analyze this about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 so years ago. And it just seems like there's traffic. It's busy. It's like you have, this person thinking that, this person thinking that, this person thinking this, you know what I'm saying? And like you're all in like a close quarters, right? And I think the energy, the brain waves, they're all kind of bouncing off, and they're in such close proximity that your neighbors, baggage, should we say, and your baggage or your positivity or your whatever is going on in your mind, right? Everyone's thoughts and processes are crisscrossing with one another in these small spaces. So anyways, that's just my opinion on it. I'm not saying it's hard facts or anything like that, but I think there's something to that. I don't think there's really an issue. I mean, maybe even like having, I've maybe even like meditating like 3, 4 is okay, but I would say one-on-one's fine, because if you're having someone facilitate it, obviously they're not really necessarily meditating. They're helping you meditate, or they're helping you be hypnotized and get out, and have a regression, something like that. So anyways, anyone in the chat who's been in group meditations, I'd love to hear your feedback on what I just said, and I'd love to hear your opinions on it. And if you're watching the replay, let me know what you think. There was a few of them that I look back at, and even though like I was kind of maybe going through some rough times, there was other meditative sessions where I was completely fine. I wasn't really having any issues. Actually, I was more like bordering on a blissful state, and things came crashing down when entering a group meditation. So it took me a little while to like look back on that stuff and analyze it and say, hey, maybe there's something to that. And, I've obviously, I became more educated in things, and you start learning more things, and you trial and error and reflection and all that stuff. But anyways, I don't know for certain, but I think there's something to that. And I'd really, really love to hear any of your feedback if you've been in those environments multiple times and what you think of it.
Awareness when assisted by another person. Exercises for 2 or more individuals will be given in Part 2. Once you have become adept at the art of relaxation and meditation, you also have all the basic skills necessary to learn how to use various self-hypnotic techniques to remember your past lives. That is the subject of the next chapter. Self-hypnosis technique. The word hypnosis means many different things to different people. For some it evokes the image of a watch swinging Svengali. For others it is a term associated with patients lying on couches and being carefully guided back through their childhood memories by skilled psychoanalysts. If you ask 5 different people what hypnosis is, you will probably get 5 different answers. After years of study, even the scientific community is unable to completely explain what happens to people when they enter a hypnotic state. Although hypnosis superficially resembles the state achieved during meditation, studies have shown that the two are physiologically quite different. While meditating, one's oxygen consumption drops rapidly within the first 5 or 10 minutes, but under hypnosis there is no noticeable change. At the command of a hypnotist, a subject can also be made to dream, but electroencephalograms, or EEG, of the brain taken during this state have shown that hypnotic dreams are not the same as those we dream during sleep. Indeed, based on the evidence of EEG alone, it appears that the state of consciousness that hypnosis most closely resembles is the waking state. For many years, this inspired skeptics to assert that there was no such thing as a bona fide state of hypnosis. Now it is generally conceded that hypnosis is a valid phenomenon, and many researchers believe that what we call a hypnotic trance actually encompasses a range of altered states of consciousness. Furthermore, although physiological evidence distinguishing hypnosis from other mental states has been a long time coming, Recent research has begun to suggest that hypnosis has something to do with the so-called split brain, the fact that the brain divides up its activities between its left and right hemispheres. It is now widely accepted that in most individuals one side of the brain is dominant over the other. One result of this lopsided division in brain activity is that most of us favor one side of our body over the other. We are either right-handed or left-handed. If you are right-handed, it is a good indication that your left brain is dominant, and if you are left-handed, you are probably right brain dominant. In addition to left or right-handedness, many other skills seem to align themselves with specific hemispheres of the brain. For example, the left brain is now believed to have more of an aptitude for language skills, categorizing and naming, marking time, counting, verbalizing, and analyzing, whereas the right brain has more of an aptitude for perceptual skills, intuition, imagination, dreaming, inventing, visualizing, understanding metaphors, being creative, and suspending all sense of time. A research group led by psychiatrist Dr. John Gruslier at London's Charing Cross Hospital Medical School has recently turned up evidence that individuals who have a left brain dominance are more susceptible to hypnosis than those whose right brains are dominant. However, Gruslier and his group have also found that, after such left brain dominant individuals are hypnotized, their right hemispheres become the major seat of brain activity for the duration of their trance. Thus, Gruslier concluded that the initial left brain dominance is important because it assists the individual in achieving the finely honed focus of attention that is so necessary to going into trance. However, once such an individual enters a hypnotic trance, the right brain takes over because it is the side of the brain that already possesses a natural aptitude for dreamlike perceptions, visualization, and suspended time sense. The lesson to be gleaned from the complexity of the hypnosis phenomenon is that we should never underestimate the seemingly unending vistas of the human mind. Although all methods for unearthing past life memories involve some sort of contact with the unconscious, the mental states associated with each of these methods are unique and possess their own subtleties and differences. In practice, one of the major differences between meditation and self-hypnosis is that self-hypnosis relies on some sort of lulling and monotonous visual image to induce an altered state of consciousness. This state of consciousness is very similar to the entranced feeling you get if you spend several minutes watching the median line on a highway go by, and even the sort of timeless sense you lapse into if you become overly engrossed in a television show. Hypnosis also creates a state of heightened suggestibility. This appears to be because the right brain does not analyze things with the same rigid logic and scrutiny as the left brain.
Okay, and so I think it's important to add, and pretty much everyone listening, watching this channel knows this. I mean, about what hypnosis does and what our modern and old school technology, should we say, like radio, TV, cell phones, tablets, computer screens, all this stuff. There are certain frequencies and flicker rates that come off of these devices, and when you combine that and just frequencies, right, that come out of these devices, and that's the reason why governments and all sorts of propagandist channels, radio stations, whatever it may be, are so successful. Even newspapers, even books. Some books are written in certain ways that are hypnotic. Grimoires can be like that. There's so many different methods for us to become entranced with information and become hypnotized and brainwashed. The reason why we go to school for so many years is to have that information jammed down our heads, right? Just repeat, repeat, repeat. Next year, next month, next semester, on and on and on. Repeat, 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 repeat. New subject, repeat, 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 and it's just like jamming it in. Get to the point where we become brainwashed little matrix soldiers, right? For the matrix. That's just the sad truth of it. But it's a fact, right? I mean, the flicker rate on TV and screens and all that stuff, the frequency with all these devices and everything going on in radio and even altering music, right? Going from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. I mean, we can go on and on and on about this stuff and how it affects us and how it, it's like, yeah, we can say, oh, well, I'm going to listen to this or that. It's about the longevity of the consumption of all this stuff and how it molds us into a compliant matrix minion. Okay. That's the sad truth. So obviously many of us know that stuff, but we've been deprogramming ourselves for years, but it's just crazy how many avenues they come at us with. Just left, right, up and down, spin our heads, constantly, bombard us with information, truth, lies, mixed truth, lies, it's just crazy. So, but they have the delivery systems to get it to everybody so that we become compliant. But those days are over.
With the same rigid logic and scrutiny as the left brain. The right brain accepts what is told to it with childlike innocence. It is passive and obedient. When asked for information, it often supplies it in magnificently detailed pictures. This makes hypnosis an especially good tool for exploring past life memories. Basic self-hypnosis technique. In this chapter, we will look at several past life remembering techniques that involve self-hypnosis. Unlike past life meditations, the self-hypnotic techniques described in this chapter generally do not result in an immediate past life recollection. Rather, they are designed to encourage the mind to remember past life memories in the form of intuitive flashes throughout the day and occasionally in the form of dreams during sleep. They are also very safe and gradual methods for recalling past lives, as they allow the inner self to retain control of both the subject matter and the timing of the appearance of these memories. I have not included any information about how to hypnotize another individual because I feel that is a process best done by a trained professional. There will be more on this subject in the chapter on finding a past life therapist. What follows is the basic technique for self-hypnosis for past life recollection. Step 1. Choose a place to perform the technique. As with meditation, you should perform self-hypnosis in a room where you feel completely comfortable and will not be interrupted. It is easier to enter a state of light trance if the room is fairly warm. Until you become proficient in entering a light trance, you should choose an object on which to fix your attention. It may be a spot on the ceiling or wall, a fire in a fireplace, an image turning around and around on a phonograph record, a sparkling crystal pendant, or even just a burning candle. Step 2. Focus your attention on the object and relax. After making yourself comfortable, fix your attention on the object. For the sake of this exercise, we'll use a candle. And start to regulate your breathing until your exhalations are deep, long, and relaxed.
Okay, so I want to add that, and I think we've talked about this quite a few times over the years, just about meditation in general, and probably in this series too. Like a good starting point with meditation is staring at the flicker of a candle. It really is. It's a great priming tool, or maybe even a readjustment tool if you haven't meditated in a while. You can have some relaxing music if you want, or you can have certain frequency tones, straight tones, in combination with the flicker of a candle. And it really can work a lot. Like there's something about candles and the flame and all that that is inherently hypnotic. And so if you're looking for kind of like a easy base method to work with, I would suggest starting with that. Or if like you're again like if you're just like trying to get back into meditation again, give it a shot, guys. It really might, you might be surprised at the results.
Try to shut out
At a minimum, it'll relax you. At a minimum.
long and relaxed. Try to shut out all other thoughts as you focus on nothing but the flickering candle, its warmth and brightness, and the glowing nimbus of light surrounding it. Tell yourself, as I watch this candle flame, I'm going to become more and more relaxed. All tension is draining out of my body, and my eyelids are becoming heavy. Soon they will be so heavy that I will no longer be able to keep them open. Step 3. Close your eyes and imagine that all tension is leaving your body after a minute or two of meditating on the candle flame, and after you start to be lulled by the flickering flame, say, "Now I am going to sink into a deep state of relaxation." Then close your eyes and move your concentration slowly through your body, making sure everything is relaxed. Feel your toes become relaxed. Feel all tension seep out of your legs, arms, neck, and shoulders. Let your back and facial muscles relax. Step 4. Visualize yourself descending a set of stairs. As soon as you feel very calm and relaxed, tell yourself, "Now I am going to go deeper into a state of hypnosis." When you say this, visualize yourself walking down a circular staircase and continue to say "deeper, deeper" as you descend the stairs. After you have moved partway down the stairs, imagine that you only have 10 more steps to go. Visualize your feet as they continue to go down, down, and count backwards from 10, giving each step a number. Imagine that you reach the foot of the steps when you reach 1, and that when you look before you, there is a comfortable room and a bed awaiting you. You walk over to the bed, and the moment you lie down on it, you feel a pleasant, sinking feeling as if you are whisked off into an even more deep and relaxed state. As you continue to lie in the bed, you feel more relaxed and more enclosed by a protective and peaceful darkness than you have ever felt. Step 5. Tell yourself that soon you will remember something about one of your past lives. Once you are comfortably ensconced in this darkness, tell yourself either aloud or mentally, "Now I am in a deep state of hypnosis. When I awaken, I will be fully relaxed and refreshed." Sometime during the next several weeks, I am going to remember something about one of my past lives. I will recall a memory that I will feel very comfortable with and which will teach me something that it is important for me to know in this life. After giving yourself this suggestion, repeat it once or twice, slowly and gently, just to make sure your unconscious mind has received the message. Then just continue to relax for a while. When you are ready to come out of your light trance, tell yourself, "Now I am going to wake up. I am going to count to 10, and when I reach 10, I will be fully refreshed and awake." Then count yourself back out. Remember to perform this procedure slowly, giving yourself at least 10 or 20 minutes to go through the step. Although you may get results following the first session, the more you practice, the deeper the trance state you will enter. The purpose of entering a light trance is to make your unconscious mind much more receptive to the suggestions you give it. Thus, you can also use this technique to reprogram yourself in any desired area, such as telling yourself your study habits will improve, your depressions will weaken and go away, your health will improve, your desire for cigarettes will lessen, and so on. If you use this technique for past life exploration, it is important to practice it on a regular basis for at least a couple of weeks. As promised, the past life information, when it comes, will present itself in the form of intuitive flashes. You must be ready to focus on them and remember them when they occur, so your memories do not slip back into your unconscious like forgotten dreams. For example, once while taking an early morning stroll down Central Park West in New York, I found myself thinking, God, the color the sunlight makes on these buildings really reminds me of St. Petersburg. The thought was so fleeting and seemed so self-evident at the time that I nearly didn't stop and take conscious note of either its unusual nature or the fact that I have never been in St. Petersburg in this lifetime. Be on guard for such sudden realizations. If, on focusing on such a thought, you realize that you have no conscious intellectual reason for making a given association, repeat the thought several times in your mind or make a note of it so that you do not forget it. Then write it down in your journal as a piece of possible past life information. Self-hypnosis through repeated suggestion. If you find that visualization is not your forte and that you are a much more verbal or right brain dominant individual, an alternative method is simply to repeat your request over and over again for a period of time. To take this route, follow the procedure for self-hypnosis through repeated suggestion. Follow steps 1 through 3 of the basic self-hypnosis technique for remembering past lives. Then, once you have reached the point where you are completely relaxed and all tension has left your body, recite the following suggestion either mentally or aloud. Sometime over the course of the next week, I am going to remember one of my past lives. Keep repeating the same words over and over again for a period of 5 minutes, making sure that no other thoughts or images intrude while you do this. Try to sense the meaning of the statement as you repeat it, and do not simply allow it to become a stream of meaningless syllables that you recite by rote. After you have done this for 5 minutes, relax for a few moments more. When you are ready, tell yourself, "Now I am going to wake up. I am going to count to 10, and when I reach 10, I will be fully refreshed and awake." Then count yourself back out. Because this method leaves the choice of which past life memory you will remember entirely up to your unconscious mind, you do not have to worry about painful memories surfacing too quickly. You can also substitute other requests in this exercise. For example, they might include a more general request such as, "I am going to start remembering my past lives," or something as specific as, "I am going to remember more about the lifetime I had in Vienna." You could even ask directly for help in other past life recall techniques. "The next time I meditate, I am going to enter the deepest and most relaxed trance that I have ever been in." Remember that, if you do substitute a specific request, you should make sure to word it in a way that will prevent painful past life information from surfacing too quickly. For instance, you might say, "When I am ready, I am going to remember more about the lifetime I had in Vienna." Or, "I am going to remember more helpful and happy memories from the lifetime I had in Vienna." Remember also that the more you practice this exercise, the more dramatic the result. Although once a day is ideal, 3 or 4 times a week will suffice until you achieve your desired goal. The index card technique. Another extremely safe method for recalling past lives and a very successful approach for many people, including skeptics, is simply to write your request on an index card and glance at the card at least 10 or 15 times a day for several weeks. The request can be worded according to the suggestions above. The only difference between this and the other techniques is that instead of communicating the message to your unconscious mind while in a trance state, you communicate it to your unconscious mind in the same way that you communicate to it any habit or automatic ability, through repetition. As directed in the chapter on dreams, make up several index cards and place them where you will see them often during the course of your day, on your bathroom mirror, on your nightstand, in a desk drawer that you open frequently, and so on. Each time you spot the card, run the message silently through your thoughts. If you have the mental discipline to do this without resorting to such memory aids, you can forego writing the message down and simply repeat it silently whenever you think of it. However, it is very important that you do this at least 10 times a day to make sure that the message is actually getting through to your unconscious mind. As with the basic self-hypnotic technique, by following this procedure for a couple of weeks, or even by adopting it as a regular habit, you will find that your unconscious mind will eventually answer your request by tossing up amazing pieces of information for your conscious perusal. These will take the form of intuitive flashes, so you needn't become concerned that you are going to lose consciousness or drift off into trance at inopportune moments during the day. For example, just as you are about to take a sip of coffee, in the flash of a second, you may suddenly become aware of how fond you were of drinking tea in ancient China. What is interesting about brief remembrances called forth by using this method is that sometimes you will find yourself fondly pondering a past life event for several seconds before it even occurs to you that the scene is no longer part of your daily life. I have had this happen to me on numerous occasions, and it is a striking experience. Like the resonance method, self-hypnotic techniques for past life exploration are an excellent adjunct to other methods and can be particularly useful in determining different time periods and cultures on which you should concentrate further efforts. However, self-hypnotic techniques are also excellent warm-up exercises for preparing your unconscious mind for past life exploration in general. Performed on a regular basis, they can actually ready your unconscious for deeper exploration and enhance your chances of success with other methods such as meditation and dream work. Part 2. Exploring for 2. Guided meditations. The basic premise behind a guided meditation is very similar to that of individual past life meditations, except that instead of meditating by yourself, you have someone else to talk you through all of the steps of the exercise. The benefit of this approach is that often it is easier for many of us to take slow, deep breaths, to relax different parts of our bodies, and to keep our thoughts focused on a particular visualization when we have someone else guiding us through the process. One risk in the approach is that you are no longer the sole overseer of which past life events are unearthed. Your guide or facilitator must therefore be careful not to steer you into a past life memory that is too painful for you to deal with. Basic technique for guided past life meditation. The first thing that you should do if you decide to experiment with guided meditation is to choose a partner with whom you feel totally at ease. I recommend that you perform your guided meditation in private or in the presence of only a few close and trusted friends. There are two reasons for this. First, past life explorations always bring with them the possibility of unearthing some very personal and intimate information, and the meditator may not feel comfortable with this surfacing in front of casual acquaintances. Second, this is not a parlor game. An atmosphere of seriousness and trust are essential for successful result. The following instructions are for the person guiding the meditation. Step 1. Choose a place to meditate. Choose a place to meditate according to the guidelines discussed in the first chapter. Step 2. Preliminary discussion. Discuss with the meditator what.
Okay, guys, I just got to take a brief break. Got to let the beasts out. So
Is to meditate according to the
hold on one
meditation.
sec. All right, so just going to back that up a minute. About 15 seconds, sorry. All right, so we'll be right back. And give me about, I'm going to put the clock up for about 5 minutes, but it's probably going to be more like 7 or 8, okay? Depends how long they take. So we'll be right back, and we're going to get into the next segment. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Step 1.
Oop.
Choose.
Sorry, wrong one. back, my friends. All right. All right, welcome back, everybody. Going to get into the next segment. Okay. Hey, everybody. All right, let's go.
Successful result. The following instructions are for the person guiding the meditation. Step 1. Choose a place to meditate. Choose a place to meditate according to the guidelines discussed in the first chapter. Step 2. Preliminary discussion. Discuss with the meditator what he wants to accomplish. Ask him which guardian figure he would like to employ and ask him for any other messages he has for his own unconscious mind, images he wants explored, questions he wants answered. Step 3. Tell the meditator to start to relax in a calm and gentle voice. Tell the meditator to close his eyes and empty his mind of all extraneous thoughts. Then assist him in relaxing by reciting the following. Breathe in and out in long, slow, steady breaths. As you do this, focus on keeping your breathing as deep, unstrained, and relaxed as possible. Feel each breath moving slowly, in and out, like the gentle, peaceful waves of an evening tide. Feel all of your worries leaving you through your breath. Think of nothing but my voice as you sink slowly into a state of deep relaxation. At the count of 10, you will find yourself filled with a feeling of great peace, and your unconscious mind will be able to hear everything that I have to say. 1, 2, 3. All troublesome thoughts are now leaving your mind. 4, 5, 6. You can hear nothing but the sound of my voice. 7, 8, 9, 10. Step 4. Tell the meditator what is to be accomplished. Tell the meditator the goals that the two of you have discussed previously. For example, as we continue, you are going to enter a state of past life awareness, and you will be able to tell me about one of your previous lives. You will not remember any memories that are too painful for you to deal with, and you will only recall incidents that will help you grow or understand something about yourself in this life. No matter how deeply you go into your own unconscious mind, you will always be safe, and you will always be able to hear my voice. Step 5. Ask the meditator to call upon his guardian figure. Continue. We are now going to take a moment to call upon your higher self or other preferred guardian figure for protection. Mentally send a message of peace to your higher self and ask that it watch over you and help guide you to a memory that it is important for you to know. Feel the presence and the love of your higher self even now. See that love surrounding you in a beautiful cloud of radiant white light. Know that nothing harmful can get through the light. You will experience nothing painful or frightening, for your higher self is now watching over you and protecting you. Step 6. Guide the meditator into a deeper state of meditation. Say, you are now ready to go into an even deeper state of relaxation. Your entire body is becoming weightless, almost non-existent, as every last trace of muscle tension evaporates. Your toes and feet are growing lighter as you search through your body and see that all muscle tension leaves. Your calves are growing lighter and more relaxed, so are your legs. Your arms feel almost as if they are floating as you drift deeper and deeper into a state of peace and relaxation. Your body is now so relaxed that it no longer feels like it is made of matter. It is made of a lighter substance, a gentle, glowing cloud of light, and you feel yourself floating in a golden sea of light. At the count of 10, you will be in a state of complete relaxation. 1, 2. Your physical body is now completely gone, and you are a being composed of light. 3, 4. You can travel anywhere you want in your body of light, and you are moving deeper and deeper into your thoughts. Nothing is holding you back, and all you can hear is the sound of my voice. 5, 6, 7. You are completely weightless. 8, 9, 10. You are now in a state of deep and total relaxation. Step 7. Guide the meditator through a visualization. Continue. Now that you have reached this state, look before you and you will see a hallway or other predetermined image. Go into the hallway and start to walk down it. Notice the floor, how beautiful it is. There are many doorways lining the hallway, but there is one special door waiting for you at the end. As you continue to walk, you will see that it is coming into sight. It is a very beautiful door, and as you approach, it is starting to open. You are going to walk through the door and into one of your past lives. At the count of 5, you will walk through the door. 1, 2. The door is getting closer. 3. It is now completely open and you are walking through it. 4, 5. You have now walked through the door and you are in one of your past lives. Step 8. Ask the subject to describe what he is seeing. Once the subject is through the door, the first thing you should do is ask him to look down at his feet and tell you what sort of footwear he is wearing, if any. Then ask the subject to describe other features of his clothing. The most important thing to remember after guiding a subject into a state of past life awareness is not to offer him information or conclusions about what he is seeing. For example, if he tells you that he is wearing a long robe, it does not mean that in the past life he's remembering he was a woman. He may be wearing a toga or some other similar garment. Don't give any opinions whatsoever about the experience. Simply question the subject. What is his name? Does he know what time period he is in? If he doesn't know, don't pressure him. Many researchers have discovered that in times past a lot of people went about their daily lives without having any idea what year it was. You will have to decipher this fact from the other details the subject tells you about his surroundings. What is his gender? Career? What is he thinking about? Are there any other...
Don't exhume my gender.
What is his gender? Career? What is he thinking about? Are there any other people present where he is? If so, who are they? What are they doing, and are the people important to him? What else does he see, and how does he feel about what he is seeing? What is important for him to know about this life? Does he know any of the people from this life in his current life? And so on. If the meditator does happen to blunder into a painful situation, simply tell him to move ahead to another time, in that life or in another life, in which he was happy. Unless you are a trained therapist, never try to guide a meditator through a painful or traumatic past life event. Step 9. Bring the meditator back out. Once you have completed the past life exploration, tell the meditator that at the end of 10, he will return to his physical body and be completely awake and refreshed. You should also tell him that he will remember everything he has experienced. Then count the subject back out. 1, 2. All feeling is returning to your body. 3, 4, 5. You will remember everything that you have seen and experienced. 6, 7. You are returning back to the present. 8, 9, 10. You are completely awake and totally refreshed. If as the meditator you do not meet with any success conjuring up the images of one of your previous incarnations with this technique, don't give up. Try again, changing the image of the hallway in this exercise to any of the other induction images mentioned in Chapter 4 on meditation. Make sure that you do not start out with an attitude of worry over whether or not anything will happen. If you find this is the case, simply push your worry aside and have faith that you will remember. Similarly, once the images do start passing through your thoughts, do not hamper their natural flow by wondering things like, "Can this be possible?" Or, "Am I making all of this up?" This is an error I made in several of my early guided meditations, and it immediately stopped the process in its track. It wasn't until I learned to simply sit back and witness what my unconscious mind wanted to show me that I started having fully successful recall sessions. The Christos technique, guided meditation with massage. The basic guided meditation given above is not the only technique that you and your partner can use to explore your previous incarnations. Another popular method for two people is known as the Christos technique. The origin of the Christos technique is something of a mystery. In his book Windows of the Mind, writer Jerry Glaskin, one of the better-known popularizers of the method, says that he first stumbled across the technique in an obscure Australian magazine. In an article on the subject in New Times, Craig R. Waters attributes the technique to a Massachusetts couple named Diane and William Swigard. Whatever its origins, the Christos technique has become an established part of the past life recall repertoire, and variations of it can now be found in numerous sources. The version of the Christos technique that I present here was taught to me by Carol Dreyer. One note before beginning. Some variations of the Christos technique suggest that two facilitators be used so that one can massage the meditator's head while the other massages the meditator's feet. However, I have performed the Christos technique successfully with only one facilitator, and that is the version I described below. Step 1. Choose a place to meditate. The person who is to undergo the technique should lie down on a flat, comfortable surface. If you decide to use the floor, make sure that the meditator's head, and any other portions of his body which he deems necessary, is comfortably supported by a pillow. The place that you use should also be quiet and dimly lit to facilitate visualization. Step 2. Apply some mentholated ointment to the meditator's forehead and ankles. Apply some mentholated ointment, such as tiger balm, to the third eye region of the meditator's forehead, just above the midpoint of the eyebrows, and to both sides of his ankles, just below his ankle bone. Since some mentholated ointments are more powerful than others, you may want to test the ointment on the meditator prior to performing the technique, just to make sure that it is not too strong and doesn't produce discomfort. Then you should tell the meditator to close his eyes and relax. Step 3. Vigorously massage the places where you have applied the ointment. After you have applied the ointment, with the palm of your hand vigorously massage the meditator's third eye region for a minute or two. Then, using both your hands, vigorously massage first one ankle and then the other. If you have a third person assisting you, you can have him massage the meditator's ankles while you do the third eye region. Once you have massaged the subject's ankles for a minute or two, return to his third eye and repeat the process once again. Use just enough force so that the meditator's body jiggles while you do this, but not so much force that it is an unpleasant sensation for him. Note: one of the purposes of this vigorous massage is to help place the meditator in an even deeper state of relaxation. Step 4. After the meditator is relaxed, talk him through a series of visualizations. When you have massaged the meditator for 4 or 5 minutes, stop and sit back quietly. Then say, "Now I want you to imagine that you are growing several inches longer than the bottom of your feet." Spend as long as you need to do this, and once you feel that you are actually extending several inches beyond the feet, let me know. As soon as the meditator informs you that he can feel himself extending out into space beyond his feet, tell him to shrink back to normal size. Tell him, "Now I want you to do the same thing with your head. Feel yourself grow several inches beyond the top of your skull." Focus all of your powers of imagination on this, and as soon as you feel that you can actually sense yourself extending into the space above the top of your head, let me know. Again, as soon as the meditator has accomplished this, tell him to shrink back to normal size. Repeat this process, only this time tell him to feel himself extending several feet below the bottom of his feet, then several feet above the top of his head. Make sure that you do not rush him. Stress to the meditator that he can take as long as he feels is necessary to truly feel the sensation of having expanded beyond his normal size. In the final stage of this process, tell him, "Now I want you to sense that your entire body is blowing up like a balloon. Not only are you extending several feet beyond the soles of your feet and the top of your head, but every portion of your body is now extending several feet beyond your physical form. Actually, try to sense the air around you. Feel what it's like to extend through the floorboards or the springs of the mattress beneath you. Sense yourself as a huge, weightless, air-filled giant, and tell me when you feel that you have accomplished this task. As soon as the meditator tells you that he can feel his entire body extending out in space, have him shrink quickly back to normal size. Then repeat the balloon visualization, only this time ask him to grow even larger than before. In the third round of this stage of the exercise, instead of telling the meditator to blow up like a balloon, tell him, "Now you feel yourself leaving your body altogether. Feel yourself soaring up through space. Now I want you to see yourself settling down gently on the roof of your house or apartment building. Once you feel yourself there, tell me whether it is day or night." If the meditator says that it is night, tell him to turn the night into the daytime. Conversely, if he says that it is daytime, tell him to turn the daytime into night. Repeat this stage of the exercise, first having the meditator describe the climate he is experiencing and then asking him to change it to some other type of climate. For example, have him change a sunny day into a snowy one, or a clear night into a rainy and fog-filled morning. Note, it is very important that during this exercise the meditator feels that he is in complete control of the environment he is experiencing. Step 5. Have the meditator fly high above the earth and then come down in one of his past lives. Once the meditator can effortlessly control his visualized environment, say, "Now I want you to fly up and away from the rooftop you are standing on. Keep on flying through the clouds and the upper atmosphere until you are high above the earth. When you feel yourself suspended out in space, look back at the earth and see it spinning slowly beneath you. Imagine that with each spin it is going farther and farther back in time. Keep watching it spin until you feel an impulse to return. Then stop the spinning globe by setting your foot down firmly on its surface. Once you have done this, look down and see which continent you have placed your foot on. You are now ready to proceed with all the questions listed in the basic, guided past life meditation. It is always most important that the meditator go with the flow of what he is seeing. For example, one of the first times I underwent the Christos technique, I succeeded quite nicely in seeing where my foot had landed on the earth, what sort of footwear and clothing I was wearing, and even my surroundings. But then, in spite of the fact that all these images had come to me effortlessly and without any prior intellectual fantasizing, I started worrying, and the process went awry. It wasn't until I was able to go with the flow, so to speak, that I was able to continue. If you have a similar problem, simply remember that the ultimate source of the information you are receiving doesn't matter. Perhaps it is a past life memory, or perhaps it is just a series of symbolic images bubbling up from your unconscious. What is important is that when performed properly, the Christos technique can produce extremely startling results. The images you witness are valid messages from your own unconscious mind. Learn from them and use them to probe deeper into your own inner self. The active imagination technique. Another method for past life recollection that lends itself to use by two people is the active imagination technique. This was first mentioned in the chapter on dreams. As you have read, active imagination is a technique where you enter a state of relaxation and simply allow your imagination to take a dream image and run free with it. As with meditation, if you find that you have difficulty doing this, it may be easier to have someone talk you through a series of images rather than try to conjure them up completely on your own. Step 1. Find a comfortable place to conduct the exercise and have the imaginer enter a state of relaxation. For relaxation techniques, review steps 2 through 4 in dream technique number 1. Step 2. Ask the imaginer to visualize the dream image that he wishes to explore further. Once the imaginer has quieted his thoughts and feels relaxed, have him visualize the dream image that he wishes to explore. You should, of course, have him choose a dream image that he suspects has some son of past life connotation. As an alternative, he may also choose an image that came to him during a meditation or some other past life exploration technique. Step 3. Tell the subject to hold the image in his mind until it starts to change and a scene unfolds. When the subject has chosen an image, have him spend a few moments simply holding the image in his mind until it starts to change and become active. Once the image has become active, your primary role is to listen and help the imaginer to allow the image to develop according to its own internal directives, with as little interference or coloring on your part as possible. What follows is a sample conversation based on an actual active imagining session. Since each active imagining session will develop in its own unique way, this doesn't represent what necessarily will happen if you use this technique. It should, however, give you some idea of how to proceed. The imaginer in this session has had a recurring dream of a tropical beach that he feels has some past life meaning. The active imagining session thus begins with the imaginer holding the beach scene in his mind. Relationship. I don't see anything really, but I get the sense that maybe I was married or promised to someone else or something. We've broken the rules by falling in love, and it's considered very wrong, a very big deal. Now I'm the guy looking at the storm again. We're wondering just a little whether the wrong we have committed has caused this storm to come. But mostly we almost feel kind of glad. It's like we know the storm is going to cause a lot of damage to the village, but we don't care. We think that the village deserves it. On realizing that the theme of this apparent past life memory was not caring about shame, the imaginer became aware that in his current life, he also was embroiled in a situation which had the potential of becoming a family disgrace.
Isn't that interesting? Let's back this up. Listen to what he just said.
We don't care. We want to come. But mostly we almost feel kind of glad. It's like we know the storm is going to cause a lot of damage to the village, but we don't care.
We know the storm is going to cause a lot of damage to the village, but we don't care.
We think that the village deserves it. On realizing that the theme of this apparent past life memory was not caring about shame, the imaginer
in the past life, not caring about shame,
became aware that in his current life, he also was embroiled in a situation which had the potential of becoming a family disgrace.
Oh, what a shock. What a shock. Then fast forward and becomes a disgrace. It's like the Matrix said, you tried that last time or earlier. Now we're going to flip the script on you. Interesting, huh? That's some head games Maximus right there, guys.
Indeed, this seems to be why the storm is brewing scene surfaced in his active imagining session. He examined his feelings on the matter and discovered that in truth he did not feel that the situation was disgraceful at all, but was mainly worried about the feelings of his family. He also realized that he believed his family was wrong to feel any shame about the situation and, once again, was mainly feeling guilty because he did not feel any shame. Understanding all of this, and perceiving that his unconscious mind was warning him to take another look at the matter before another metaphorical storm hit, he decided to stop feeling guilty and reconcile his feelings with his convictions. It should be noted that because of its extremely free and wide-ranging nature, the active imagination technique is capable of producing a vast array of information, and not all of it is as specific or useful as the example given here. As a consequence, be cautious and discerning about the information you uncover in this manner. Don't necessarily assume that a sequence of images should be interpreted literally, and don't jump to conclusions. Instead, use the active imagination technique as a method for obtaining possible clues rather than cold, hard facts about your past life. Occasionally, you will get a remarkably coherent story out of it, but just as frequently you will get a lot of chaff with your wheat. Be prepared, also, to put in some practice hours before you and your partner really get the technique perfected. Sometimes it takes a while for your unconscious mind to fully understand what you want out of it. When it does, you will find that the active imagination technique can be most useful for quickly conjuring up a flow of ore from the deeper levels of your psyche.
So, I mean, it's just kind of like what he just said there. It's like, just think about like the whole process, right? Everything that you have to go through, like an awakening process, then like the realization that past lives could be, are, and eventually realize that they are a legit thing. And then you got to do these mind games with yourself, these exercises, meditative practices, hypnosis, in order to maybe get some answers, some realizations. And that's just like one segment of it. We can go down the laundry list of other things we talk about on the channel and how it relates to cement the truth, in my opinion, about this realm and its adjacent realms. And that this is some convoluted soul trap.
Part 3. Exploring with professional guidance. Exploring with a professional past life therapist. If after trying the methods given in this book, you decide that you would like to make even deeper and more extensive explorations of your past life memories, the best thing for you to do is to seek the assistance of a trained past life professional. Past life therapy is not for people who have a single symptom they want explained or who only want to find out one thing about the past but are unwilling to look at their entire life, or lives, as an interconnected and ongoing process. As psychologist Ronald Wong Ju observes, life is not a series of symptoms and symptoms relieved. People's lives are usually a matrix of involvements. Most past life professionals agree and point out that past life therapy is only for people who have a powerful urge to grow and stretch beyond the boundaries of their present psychological, emotional, and spiritual selves, and also have the courage to look at themselves honestly and recognize that such changes may involve many levels of awareness, behavior, and patterns of social and personal interaction. Above all, a willingness for honest self-understanding is essential. As Dr. Hazel Denning warns, you can fool yourself, even in past life therapy. If you're not ready to look at something, you won't. Past life therapy is not for everyone. Past life therapy does not work for people who have not the strength to look at their own weaknesses and past transgressions, and many people cannot handle the truth about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. We've talked about that a lot. Like, it's crazy to think about, guys, but we've been here who knows how many lifetimes, right? And that means if could be thousands, hundreds, tens of who knows, right? We have no clue how many times we've been here. But it begs the question that, or no, I mean, it's just a fact that we would have lived all sorts of various lifestyles, some good, some evil, some in between. I mean, it's crazy to think about. And also like how the soul group plays off of one another. How, like you did somebody wrong in a past life, so you reincarnate, and then the one that you did wrong gets to retaliate in some evil way, like, I mean, it's crazy. And it could be friends, it could be family, who knows, right? Could be acquaintances, could be neighbors, right? And some can have like a huge connection in the soul group one lifetime. They can have like a loose connection in another lifetime. I mean, so many different variations of how this all plays out, and it's deceptive as hell.
And many people cannot handle the truth about themselves. It boils down to this. Reincarnation and past life therapy teach you to be absolutely responsible for yourself. If you can't do that, you're not going to look at something that shows you that you chose the experience, subconsciously of course. So, if you have lousy parents, it's very difficult to say, I chose them for a reason. It's my fault.
You know how many how many comments I've gotten over the years from people saying, "Oh, why I would never choose this. Why would I choose this? Isn't that?" Well, you got to remember, you're coming in and you're being memory wiped in between each lifetime, right? We only come in fresh once, and then we fall under the spell of all the trappings and the attachments between Earth and the adjacent astral realms, right? So once we get past that first one, we're experiencing something new, and it's probably interesting and maybe even fun. And it's way different than anything we've ever probably experienced out in, let's say, the multiverse, right? And then we lose ourselves big time and fall into this rut, this pit of sensory addictions and attachments, soul groups, all that stuff. And then it just keeps going and going and going until finally we reach a lifetime like we are now and realize, hey, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm done with it, right? And the curtain is completely lifted.
They treated me that way. That's not easy. However, for those who do have the courage to explore the inner regions of their psyche and face whatever they find there, the rewards of working with a past life therapist are great. How to find a professional past life therapist. One of the best ways to find a good past life therapist is to have one recommended by a friend whose judgment you know and trust. If you are not fortunate enough to have friends who can help you in this manner, an alternative is to contact the Association for Past Life Research and Therapy. The association maintains a directory of past life therapists, including their qualifications and years of practice, and lists them according to geographic area. Although most of their listings are for therapists in the United States, they do have some international listings. The directory is available to non-professionals who, by paying a small membership fee, have become either associate or student members of the association. For further information, write the Association for Past Life Research and Therapy. If you have a holistic doctor or live in a community large enough to have encouraged the formation of a New Age organization, you can also try contacting them and asking if they know of any past life therapists whom they might recommend. Once you have one or more names to choose from, consider the experience and credentials of each therapist. Virtually every therapist I have talked to during the course of my research has agreed that, in addition to having experience in past life work, it is absolutely essential that a past life therapist have training in other psychotherapeutic and counseling techniques as well. Only a trained professional will know how to release and properly handle the powerful emotions that may surface during a past life regression. The second most commonly offered piece of advice when seeking a past life therapist is to follow your instincts. For example, Hazel Denning, Executive Director of the Association for Past Life Research and Therapy, tells all callers seeking referrals to telephone a prospective past life therapist and see how they feel about the therapist after talking to them for a few minutes. As she explained, it is important for an individual to feel comfortable and at ease with a therapist in order for any regression technique to work. Other past life professionals agree. If you do not like or trust a past life therapist after talking to or meeting with him, this is a powerful indication that he is not the right therapist for you. You should apologize for taking up his time and continue your search. In a recent article on the subject, Dr. Ernest Pecci offers several useful pointers for evaluating past life therapists. 1. Only go to a past life therapist who charges hourly rates that are in the same range as those charged by conventional psychotherapists in your area, and be wary of past life therapists who charge excessive hourly rates, regardless of their justifications for their prices, such as the participation of spirit guides or teachers. 2. Avoid past life therapists who focus on alleviating isolated symptoms by conjuring up a past life event for each, like treating all pains with aspirin, without regard for the mind, body, and psyche of an individual as a whole, and without regard for the importance of integrating past life experiences into one's current life. 3. Similarly, be wary of past life therapists who maximize the importance of past life events and assert that they are the cause of all present symptoms and problems. In addition to being useful criteria for evaluating potential therapists, these last two pieces of advice can also be extremely helpful in deciding whether you are ready for past life therapy. It bears repeating that past life therapy should not be viewed as something to do merely for recreation or in the same context as a visit to a fortune teller. It is a powerful and transformative tool, and few who undergo it come out unchanged. Therapeutic approaches now available. Once you have made the decision to go to a past life therapist, you will have to decide what type of regression technique might be best for you. What follows is a brief summary of some of the therapeutic approaches now available. Hypnosis. Of all methods for tapping into past life memories, many believe that hypnosis is the most expeditious. In a hypnotic trance, not only do memories have a tendency to come to the fore more rapidly than with many other methods of recall, but often quite a number of the subject's past lives become instantly accessible. Although there is little doubt that hypnosis is one of the most powerful and extraordinary tools currently available for exploring past lives, it is also a complex and multifaceted phenomenon. Before you can make an intelligent decision as to whether a visit to a hypnotherapist is the right avenue of past life exploration for you, there are a number of things that you should know and consider. Hypnosis is most frequently described as a state of heightened suggestibility. This is because the merest suggestion on the part of a hypnotist often will be perceived as reality by the hypnotized subject. If a hypnotist suggests to a subject that he has no feeling in his hand, the hand of a good hypnotic subject will become numb. Similarly, if the hypnotist suggests that an onion actually smells like a rose, or that there is a giant Easter rabbit standing in the room, a hypnotized individual will perceive these suggestions as equally real. It should be pointed out immediately that the suggestibility of a hypnotized subject does not extend into areas of ethical or moral transgression. In spite of the bad press occasionally given hypnosis by horror films, numerous scientific studies have amply demonstrated that no one can be made to do anything in a hypnotic trance that they wouldn't do in their waking state. You cannot be made to kill a person or stroll out in front of a truck while you are hypnotized unless you have already consciously planned to do such a thing. Studies have shown that even when hypnotists try to come up with elaborate and clever lies to convince a subject that he must commit a certain transgression rather than go against his inner directives, a subject will simply come out of trance. However, tell a subject undergoing a painful dental procedure that he will need no anesthetic and feel no pain, and, given that the individual trusts the hypnotist and perceives no threat, he will immediately oblige. No one really knows how the mind is able to achieve such control. Occasionally, critics of hypnotic past life regression have challenged its validity on the grounds that hypnosis is such a highly suggestible state that asking a hypnotized individual to tell me about one of your past lives cannot help but elicit a positive response. What such critics fail to take into account is that an experienced past life hypnotherapist is well aware of this fact and will always try to avoid leading questions. For example, instead of asking a hypnotized individual, "What is the past life cause of your current back problems?" A hypnotherapist might ask simply, "What is the cause of your current back problems?" This way, if there is a past life cause, the unconscious mind will offer it up freely without feeling obliged to fabricate an imaginary past life event if there is no real one that is relevant. Research has shown that roughly 90% of the population can be hypnotized, and that, like any talent, hypnotic susceptibility varies from person to person. Although only about 10% of the population can enter an extremely deep or somnambulistic trance, doctors who use hypnosis in place of conventional anesthesia, such as Philadelphia plastic surgeon Dr. Frank Marlowe, have found that about 75% of the population can be hypnotized deeply enough to feel no pain during surgery. It was once believed that women were more hypnotizable than men, but it is now believed that hypnotic susceptibility has nothing to do with sex or intelligence. Children, however, are more susceptible than adults. Research suggests that to some extent the ability to be
And we've gone over that. Like, children are in a different brainwave state, especially from the age of, well, I mean, birth, but obviously hypnotizing a child and getting like feedback is different, because even though they can't be hypnotized technically from birth, they're in like a different brainwave state than adults, especially from the ages of birth to age 6, 7. Like, those are the big ones, but it goes a little beyond that sometimes. But as we grow older, we transition into different brainwave states, and then we can even kind of go in and out of them. And then obviously, as death approaches, then the brainwave states change again, and we become more open to, let's just say, we can call it paranormal. You could do entity interactions, interference, communication, deathbed visions, visitations, like we talk about a lot, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think he's spot on. I mean, really, the data does show that it's like anywhere between 80 and 90% of people, let's just say 80, right, can be hypnotized, and then there's like 10 to 20 that just can't. It's just something to do with the wiring. Like, there's a few of you out there who I talk to, some I'm very close with, who have this problem. They've gone to multiple hypnotherapists and they just cannot be hypnotized. But anyways, let's move on.
And adults. Research suggests that to some extent the ability to be hypnotized can be learned. With practice, perseverance, and the right chemistry between subject and hypnotist, many individuals who have had difficulty going under can be hypnotized at some point in their lives. Perhaps the most distinguishing characteristic of a hypnotic past life regression is the vividness of the experience. When hypnotically regressed by a trained professional, individuals report that they are able to hear, smell, feel, and taste various stimuli around them as vividly as if they were really there. Emotions experienced during the reliving of such past life situations are equally immediate and real. The desirability of such vividness is a matter of personal preference. If the thought of such a vivid past life experience excites you, or if you are skeptical and feel that seeing one of your past lives in concrete detail is the only way you will become convinced of the validity of the experience, these are factors to consider. Conversely, if after reading about hypnotism you decide that it is not right for you, you can seek instead the services of a past life therapist who specializes in some other approach, such as guided meditation or dream work. However, do not let the vividness of a hypnotic past life experience by itself frighten you away from choosing past life hypnotherapy. Remember that an experienced past life hypnotherapist will still allow you to set your own pace and will always consult your unconscious mind and wait for its permission before embarking on any past life exploration. Similarly, An experienced past life therapist will also always watch out for your emotional and psychological well-being and would never allow you to languish in a painful or frightening past life memory should one come to the surface. If it does become necessary for you to work through a traumatic memory, there are many ways that a past life hypnotherapist can guide you through the experience without subjecting you to undue shock or pain. For example, your hypnotherapist may give you a post-hypnotic suggestion to confront the difficult memories at a later date and only after their painful elements have been diffused. Group hypnotic regression. If the idea of hypnotherapy appeals to you, another option is to be hypnotized in a group session. Such group past life seminars have become very popular around the country, and it is quite possible that you can find one being conducted in your area. One of the advantages of such an approach is that it can be a quick and readily accessible way for you to get a taste of what past life regression is all about. To some extent, attending a group session can also be a way for you to determine how susceptible you are as a hypnotic subject and enable you to decide whether past life hypnotherapy is the right avenue for you to take. However, if you do decide to participate in a group situation, remember that it is still important to check on the credentials and experience of the individual conducting the session. As for the disadvantages of the group approach, one is that your past life experience by necessity cannot be as extensive or personalized as the past life work that takes place during an individual session. Some past life researchers have also argued that in attending a group regression, one runs the risk of experiencing a traumatic past life situation without the immediate therapeutic follow-up work necessary to release and heal the traumatic memory. To safeguard against this possibility, an experienced hypnotherapist will always start out by giving the group a specific hypnotic suggestion to remember only positive events. However, this is something you should inquire about before committing yourself to a group situation. Guided meditation. Not all past life therapists use hypnosis. Many prefer to employ different forms of guided meditation as regression tools. The specifics of this approach have already been covered both in Chapter 4 on individual meditation and Chapter 6 on guided meditation. Dream work. If you are the sort of individual who has a vivid dream life or has some other reason to believe that dreams are a particularly useful way for you to communicate with your unconscious mind, you may want to look for a therapist who employs dream work in his practice. The Netherton Method. One of the most interesting of the recently developed techniques for unearthing past life information comes from California psychologist Morris Netherton. Netherton's method does not involve any sort of altered state of consciousness, but instead relies on repeating emotionally laden key phrases to bring about past life recall. The basic wisdom behind Netherton's technique, that the recurrent themes in our speech contain hidden and unconscious information about our inner selves, is not new. It is also the basis for therapeutic techniques found in Gestalt psychology, the branch of psychology that emphasizes behavior rather than introspection as the key to a person's personality. What is new is Netherton's discovery that recurrent themes in our speech can also be remarkably effective in unearthing our past life memories. In employing Netherton's technique, the past life therapist first talks to the patient about his medical and family history and discusses the problems as the patient perceives them. During this conversation, the therapist pays careful attention to any expressions or turns of phrase that the patient gives special emphasis or returns to again and again. For example, the therapist may find that the patient repeatedly refers to various situations in his life as suffocating, or he may sum up every problem by saying, "I've tried everything and it's hopeless." After isolating a phrase, the therapist then asks the patient to lie down and concentrate on the word or words, repeating them until an additional phrase or mental picture pops into his mind. As Netherton states, at this point most patients fear that they will draw a blank, that they will flop. but almost without exception the constant repetition of a phrase will jog the patient's mind to an image, and we will work forward from there. Frequently, when a new patient finally breaks through to his first past life image, the scene will develop at a gallop, shocking the patient and almost overwhelming him. For example, Netherton cites the case of a 24-year-old office worker who sought Netherton's help because she suffered from an inexplicable and overwhelming feeling of unhappiness that she could not shake. During the course of their introductory conversation, Netherton discovered that the patient returned repeatedly to 3 phrases: being shoved and bumped, unable to get my breath, and stuck in a mess. The phrases became especially prominent when she described the awful mess of her office and how she often had to leave just to be able to get her breath. Netherton pointed out these phrases and asked the patient if they brought any images into her mind. A quizzical look crossed her face. "Well, this is my house," she replied suddenly. "I guess I'll just have to live here." Realizing that he was on to something, Netherton repeated this phrase until she described a previous existence in which she had been a black slave punished for insubordination by being locked in a small crate. As she explained, living in such close confines and being forced to breathe the fetid, repulsive air of her own filth had been unbearable for her, and at an unconscious level she was still haunted by the memory of being shoved and pushed around as a slave, of being unable to breathe, and of being confined in such an awful mess. In his book Past Lives Therapy, co-authored with Nancy Schifrin, Netherton gives many instances of spontaneous regressions and healings as the result of the repetition of such emotionally laden phrases. Regression techniques employing body massage. Some past life therapists also employ body massage as a regression technique.
Now, that's another one, right? I've spoken with a number of people. I actually have someone in my family who had a past life realization and realization of their childhood during a massage, and it freaked them out. But so again, massage techniques, and it goes to what Rolling Water was putting up in the chat. Really, really important when we're talking about people who can't get into trance, right? So Rolling Water puts, it could be the incorrect induction method, analytical versus non-analytical. Excellent point. And then he also says, also the hypnotist would try different suggestibility tests on the subject. Exactly. Yeah. Going to, there's a number of things, like going to one hypnotherapist, just one, and trying like a few different methods and it not working and leaving. It just might be what they're doing and the methods that they're trying on you. Whereas if you try a few different hypnotherapists, maybe one of them will help you. And you can say, look, I tried this and this and that with one hypnotherapist. I wasn't able to get induced. I wasn't able to go under. And then you can mention that to the new hypnotherapist, and so on and so forth, right? And yeah, the analytical versus non-analytical, that's a big one too, right? Being able to allow yourself to engross yourself with the experience. And, a massage may be one. I've heard of people getting into just random, not intended whatsoever, random past lives through things like Reiki. So it's not just massage, Reiki too. These things happen. So, and sometimes it might not even just be past life. It could be, current life, but, in the womb or early childhood, things you do not remember whatsoever, all of a sudden come back, and they are deep realizations of truth,
The purpose and degree to which massage is used by therapists varies. For example, some therapists use massage simply as an adjunct to other regression techniques, often to assist a patient in coming to grips with a memory involving some past life body injury. However, there are also some therapists who use massage as their primary regression tool. One such therapist is retired California eurythmics teacher Kay Ortman. Ortman regresses people simply by massaging them for several hours while playing emotionally stirring music, such as works by Bach. Her patients who have undergone her technique assert that it is remarkably effective. As a contributing editor of Human Behavior stated in an article on Ortman's work, "What happened in that room during the next 5 hours was the strangest experience of my life. I took no drugs. I was not in a trance, nor asleep and dreaming, as images of other times and places moved fleetingly through my consciousness." The editor concluded that his massage regression had a profound influence on the way he perceives himself and others, and that he is no longer skeptical about reincarnation. There are many therapeutic techniques for accessing memories from previous incarnations. Some therapists employ the use of psychics, and others even use drugs to unlock past life memories. In the end, as with most things, it all comes down to one's own personal requirements and preferences. However, the information discussed in this chapter should provide a useful basis for you to choose which technique would be the best for you if you decide that you want to be regressed by a professional. Exploring with a psychics and other metaphysical sources. One of the most controversial yet promising avenues of past life exploration is consultation with a psychic. For anyone who has studied the matter with a discerning and open mind, there is no doubt that there exist among us talented individuals who can psychically tune into information that they have no normal sensory means of knowing.
Now, the problem is there's a lot of bullshitters and opportunists out there too. And the same applies for a lot of people out there who claim to be past life regression therapists, right? Or remote healers, all this stuff, right? Sure, there are some that exist, but finding one that is authentic is an undertaking, and getting to one who is real may cost you a lot. You may have to go through hundreds, if not thousands of dollars before you find someone who's legit. And one thing I found, I haven't run across many. There's a few, right? And the ones I've run across who do it and are on the up and up, they usually don't charge much. Usually. I mean, they're reasonable, right? They got to make a living too, right? But, you have some of them out there, $500,000 an hour, shit like that. If you're in that kind of territory, just forget it, right? Just back off, right? They're probably opportunists. Well, some of them might be real too, right? I'm not saying that they're all, even those who charge that are fake. I'm sure there's some out there that are legit, but just be careful, and ask around, right? Try to find individuals you trust. It's but you can go this route, and in these days, really, really, really cannot stress this enough, guys. If you're going to go down the route of a psychic or or even a regression therapist, right? But especially a psychic, do not give them your real name until you get there. Do not give them your credit card and real name to order a session or something like that, right? If you're gonna book it and you have no choice but to use something like a credit or debit card, use a friend. Say, hey, I'll give you the money for whatever it costs, and can you order it? This way, there is no information that they can look up on you ahead of time and use as a tool to connect with you, right? Oh, I have this feeling that you grew up in this town in this state. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that you have 2 children and you're married to this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, take away all of that. Do not give them any access to information whatsoever ahead of time. Once you get there, if they want to know your real name, fine. Give them a first name. Don't give them a last name, and leave it at that. So these are just some helpful tips to protect yourself and find if you're getting valid information. If you're getting like generic information that can easily be found on the internet or even guessed, you know, they're not legitimate.
There is also little doubt that some of these individuals can tune in to what we've been calling past life information in this book. As for how wide-ranging is the ability of any given psychic, or how accurate is the past life information they report, the answers to these questions are as varied as the human personality. I have been to many psychics, and my experiences in this regard cover the entire range of possibilities. I have considered some readings to have been complete rubbish. I have had apparently talented psychics tell me about past lives for which I felt no resonance, and I have also had others describe in detail various past life memories that I have had since I was a child. The bottom line is that when you set out to find a talented psychic, you must be both discerning and prudent. However, when you find a psychic who is really able to tune in to you, and you will know when you have found one, he or she can be of great assistance in helping you explore your past life memories. Finding a psychic. The best way to find a good psychic, as with finding other professionals, is through the recommendation of a friend, or even better, through the recommendation of a past life psychologist or other New Age professional. Another possibility is to contact one of several professional organizations for psychics that have sprouted up around the country. One such organization is the Association of Psychic Practitioners in San Jose, California. Designed as both a professional organization and a sort of better business bureau for psychics, the app was founded by psychic Mary Palermo in 1980 because, as a practicing psychic consultant for more than 20 years, she was tired of being lumped in the same category as gypsy fortune tellers and other so-called psychics of dubious ethic. In addition to functioning as a professional association, the app offers a certification process to honest and sincere psychic. To qualify, a psychic practitioner must sign a statement of ethics, furnish letters of reference and self-definition, and pass an oral evaluation conducted by a panel of volunteer psychologists, professors, and other related professionals. Further information can be obtained by writing to the Association of Psychic Practitioners, San Jose, California. Although most of APP's professional members are on the West Coast, there are similar organizations in other areas of the country. In the New York area, the New York Spiritualist Center, Inc., and its sister organization, the Metaphysical and Parapsychological Institute, also offer referral services for a fee to individuals interested in finding a qualified psychic. Many communities have parapsychological or New Age organizations listed in their yellow pages that can offer such assistance. Some communities even have listings of psychics in the yellow pages, although Palermo warns that good advertising doesn't necessarily mean a good psychic.
It usually means a bad psychic. If it's like heavily advertised, heavy. Yeah, usually. Again, you may be surprised sometimes, but, you know, it's always like, I always think it's best like to talk with like-minded individuals and say, hey, anyone you recommend, can, anyone who is worth, spending time with, and who you resonate and connect with. And, don't just jump right into it, because there's just so many hucksters out there, and they give a bad name for the good ones out there. They really do.
As she states, you can't go by advertisements. Some of these psychics have wonderful press agents. Just as with finding a past life therapist, one of the first things to consider is how you feel about your potential psychic. This is important not only because a good rapport with a psychic is necessary for a good reading, but also because our intuitions are often the best acid test for how right a situation is for us. Call the psychic up and simply see how you feel about him after talking for a few minutes. Carol Dreyer advises that when looking for a good psychic, you should follow your feelings. If you get up to the door and you don't feel right about it, leave. In addressing the same issue, Palermo told me that she feels one should follow roughly the same procedure. She advises would-be seekers of psychic consultations not to be afraid to ask questions. Find out how many years of experience the psychic has. Find out what he charges and precisely what he offers in return for his fee. Find out what his training is and whether he adheres to any particular school of metaphysical thought. Palermo also suggests asking a prospective psychic practitioner if it might be possible to speak to one of his clients so as to better determine both his qualifications and his sincerity, although Palermo warns that client-counselor privacy may not always permit a psychic to give out another client's name. In shopping around for a good psychic, here are several other important points to keep in mind. Be wary of psychics who put an overemphasis on money. For example, if a psychic seems more concerned about what's going in your wallet than what's going on in your psyche, chances are this is telling you something about him. Similarly, avoid any psychic who tells you that for a sum of money he can remove a curse, mend your marriage, or find you a lover. Be wary of psychics who try to control or manipulate your life. A good psychic will offer opinions, not commands, and seldom, if ever, tell you that there is something that you absolutely must do. Be wary of psychics who are overly complimentary and who rattle off streams of preposterous past life scenarios for you, such as, you were Julius Caesar because of your great skill as a leader, and then you were Michelangelo because of your extraordinary sensitivity.
Exactly.
Similarly, be wary of psychics whose readings are nothing but platitudes and generalities that are true of everyone, such as, you do not always use your time wisely. Be wary of psychics who tell you that they are 100% accurate, or who tell you that they are somehow cosmically special and chosen and one of only a handful of psychic practitioners on the earth who has a direct line to psychic information. No psychic is 100% accurate, and any psychic who tells you that he is either misguided or lying. Similarly, be wary of psychics who tell you that the advice they give you is somehow etched in stone. A good psychic will always admit that what he is tuning into is a realm of potentialities and probabilities. Some of the things a good psychic tells you may be highly probable, but a talented clairvoyant will rarely, if ever, tell you that something is immutable or absolute. Be wary of psychics who do not want you to tape record what they tell you. Many good psychics will give you a tape recording of your reading as a matter of course, but if they do not offer to tape your consultation, be sure to tape it yourself. Often by re-listening to a reading, you will gain a clearer understanding of many of the things the psychic has told you and that you may have missed the first time around. Be wary of psychics who try to cloak what they do in a veil of mystery, or who refuse to answer simple questions about their procedures by alleging that they do not want to give away their dark and mystical secrets. Like any other professionals, honest and sincere psychics will be open about what they do. How can you tell if a psychic is really psychic? Once you have found a psychic whom you feel is sincere and trustworthy, and you have begun your consultation with him, it will rapidly become obvious whether he is psychic or not. A talented psychic will be able to readily tell you very accurate information about yourself. Depending on the skill and area of emphasis of the psychic, it may be information about your health, your psychological makeup, your relationships, or your business circumstances. Whatever the case, he will quickly reveal, via the content of what he is saying, that he is privy to information about your life that is far more specific than any facts he might have gleaned from your appearance and whatever brief introductory information you have given him. For example, I have an internal anatomical anomaly that is not visible to the naked eye, and I have found that when assessing my health, a talented sensitive will almost always pick up on this immediately. Occasionally, you may receive a reading from a psychic that will seem to make no sense. It may mean that the psychic, for reasons that will be touched on shortly, has not been able to tune in to any accurate information about you. It may mean that the psychic has told you something that you are not yet consciously ready to hear or acknowledge. Or it may mean that the psychic is a fraud. It is up to you to determine which of these three possibilities is the correct one. You should start by trying to rule out fraud. If the psychic is an established and well-known clairvoyant, or has come highly recommended to you by several of your reasonably intelligent friends, you may tentatively rule out fraud. Conversely, if the psychic tells you that you have always been celebrities in your past lives, or offers to balance your aura by selling you several $100s worth of magic crystals, you have grounds to believe that you are being bilked. If you're still unsure, play the tape of your session to a close and trusted friend and see what his opinion is on the matter. If, after examining the situation, you decide that the psychic is a talented and sincere clairvoyant, but the reading still makes no sense to you, consider whether the psychic has told you something that you are not ready to hear or acknowledge. There are two ways of doing this. Play the tape recording of your reading to a close and trusted friend and ask for an honest opinion. Frequently, our close friends are able to see things in us that we are not yet ready to confront in ourselves. Another option is to put the tape aside and play it later from time to time. Psychic Carol Dreyer told me that she has had clients who were initially very skeptical of what she had to say call her months, and even years later to tell her that after deciding to listen to the tape one last time, everything had suddenly made sense to them. I, too, have had this experience listening to tapes of sessions at a later date. However, if after exploring these options you decide that an ethical, sincere, and usually very talented clairvoyant has given you a reading that is as inscrutable to you as so many hieroglyphics, do not fret. Sometimes even the best of psychics simply miss. Indeed, I have frequently found that if I recommend a talented psychic to 6 of my friends, although the majority of them will come back with glowing reports, at least one individual in the group will always be disappointed in the results of the session. I do not know why this is. Perhaps the friend simply wasn't ready to listen to what the psychic had to say. Perhaps, like any talented person, the psychic simply had an off day, or perhaps the chemistry between the psychic and the individual was not right. Whatever the case, many researchers have also commented on the same phenomenon, and it is a possibility to watch out for. Once you have found a talented psychic, some of the past life information he will tell you will just click. You will know it is correct because it will tug at something deep within you, or it will suddenly make you understand an entire constellation of information about yourself that you never understood or connected together before. On the other hand, some past life information may not evoke any response in you and may seem no more familiar or meaningful than a page torn randomly out of a novel from the library. If you find that this is the case, you should treat the information as you would any potential past life memory obtained by one of the methods given in this book. Look at it and assess it with the scrutiny of a psychologist, a historian, and a lawyer. Keep in mind all of the statistical realities that have been previously discussed regarding past lives, and if it remains unfamiliar, but seems as if it might have historical validity, write it down in your past life journal, and then wait and see if you encounter any further pieces of information that either confirm or refute the information. Remember that if reincarnation is a fact, we have all lived dozens and even hundreds of lives, and not all of them are going to strike us as immediately familiar. However, remember also that no matter how uncannily accurate a psychic seems, no psychic is right all of the time, and not everything they say should be taken as gospel. Even the most talented clairvoyant can still tune into the wrong wavelength on occasion. Accept your psychic's humanity. Having chosen a clairvoyant with whom you have a good rapport, remember two important things. First, do not let your awe of his psychic abilities cloud your perception of what sort of human being the psychic is. Just as a talent to play the piano in itself tells you nothing about the integrity or wisdom of the person playing the piano, a talent for paranormal functioning does not necessarily imply an equal gift in the areas of compassion, ethics, or spiritual wisdom. Although psychic functioning can be an outgrowth of spiritual development, it can also be due to other factors as well. Thus, no matter how dazzled you are by a psychic's ability, weigh him in his fullness, and sense how involved he is in all of the multiplicity of other areas that makes each of us human. Do not make a psychic your guru on the basis of his psychic ability alone. Second, when you begin working with a talented clairvoyant, do not allow his skills as a psychic to persuade you that he must therefore have some corner on cosmic truth. Psychics have differences of opinion and idiosyncrasies of thought just like the rest of us, and it is doubtful whether any two clairvoyants share a completely identical cosmic worldview. Similarly, since the information a psychic receives is always filtered through his own thoughts and internal biases, no matter how talented a sensitive is, the information he channels will always be at least slightly colored and distorted by the mere fact that it is passed through him. This is perhaps why extraordinarily talented psychics almost always speckle their usually astounding pronouncements with a few unmitigated absurdities. For example, psychic Edgar Casey, a fundamentalist Christian when not in trance, was quite accurate in most of the past life information he delivered, but he also had a tendency to tell a statistically preponderant number of the people who came to him for past life readings that they had had a lifetime in which they had known and talked with Christ. The point to be gleaned from this is that, no matter how accurate a psychic seems to be, like all of us mere mortals, they are also fallible. If 9 of the things a talented sensitive tells you are unearthly,
That is such an excellent point. Excellent point. Everyone has their own beliefs and biases, all that stuff, right? And that includes psychics and past life regression therapists, all that stuff. That stuff can bleed over. Those belief systems can bleed over into you and have some sort of they can basically be put onto you. So that's why, like, when we've talked about this stuff in the past, especially during the Michael Newton series of Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, etc., and in other videos, that, you know, when you're talking to someone like a hypnotherapist or even a psychic, whatever it may be, and they're going to help with past life or readings, whatever it may be, you know, ask them what their beliefs are. Ask them, you know, what like teachings they were taught under, et cetera, et cetera. All those types of things should factor into whether you're going to hire them and use them or not, right? I've said many times, and, you know, I don't care what anyone thinks. If you're going to a regression therapist and their primary teachings for past life regressions are through Dolores Cannon's clown show, don't use them. The reason why I've concentrated mostly on Michael Newton is because I feel I've looked at the study guides, at least the older ones, and all that stuff, and it seems very on point. If you go through and listen to the commentary on Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, you'll hear me bring it up. You'll hear him bring it up, and I point it out every single time where he's doing it right. And the issue is his teachings his study manuals and all that. He can train. He's passed away, but there's a whole institute and all that stuff, and you can still be trained under those guidelines, right? The problem is it all boils down to the practitioner, right? A lot of these practitioners will, yeah, they'll have Michael Newton, they'll have Dolores Cannon, Dyer, all this stuff, right? They'll have all these different types of certificates, blah, 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 right? But, I think it's always important to talk to them, right? Say, hey, look, can you just give me 10, 15 minutes of your time? I have some questions. And really dive into that. Say, hey, like, what are your belief systems? You're going to get, even if they just are under Newton's guidelines, right? You're still going to get Newton's biases, right? Because he was being taken for a ride by entities, right? By the council, right? So there's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, Newton stresses 100% that it's important to not lead, not insert yourself into the client's session. That's really, really big. So, and you can find out a lot more details if you want to watch those on the channel. Just go to the playlist tab.
This is that no matter how accurate a psychic seems to be, like all of us mere mortals, they are also fallible. If 9 of the things a talented sensitive tells you are unervingly accurate, but the 10th seems to be nonsense, don't lose sleep trying to hammer it into your belief system. It may just be nonsense. Past life exploration through astrology. According to many mystical traditions, you can find out about your past lives through astrology. For example, in his book Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda asserts that one's astrological birth chart is actually a portrait of all the past karma and influences one has brought into this current incarnation. As he writes, "A child is born on that day and at that hour when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma." Thus, by having one's birth chart interpreted by a skilled astrologer, Yogananda says that one can become aware of those karmas which will have the most powerful and formative influence on one's life, and through right conduct, prayer, and spiritual self-realization one can even ameliorate negative karmas and convert what might have manifested as a thrust of the sword into a mere prick of the pin. However, Yogananda warns that such information can only be gleaned from a birth chart by astrologers of intuitive wisdom, and adds that these are few. Many past life researchers have also uncovered evidence suggestive of a connection between karma and astrology. For example, California past life regressionist Dick Sutphin, who has spent nearly 20 years studying the past life phenomenon, cites one case in which a woman described watching a group of masters plan her life after being hypnotically regressed to the between-life state. She noted that in addition to taking into account all of the hundreds of other human beings it was important that she interact with during her coming incarnation, her guides also took into careful consideration the multitude of astrological factors surrounding the time and place of her birth. In one intriguing study, Dr. Adrian Finkelstein, an assistant professor of psychiatry at St. Luke's Medical Center in Chicago, reports that he has even found pronounced astrological similarities between his patients' current birth charts and birth charts cast from the dates of recent past life birthdays that they were able to recall while under hypnotic regression. Although the actual dates of birth from one lifetime to the next were not the same, Finkelstein found that many astrological influences did carry over with a greater frequency than could be explained by chance alone. Indeed, a number of the past life therapists I have talked to feel that there is a certain validity to astrology and that a talented astrologer can indeed extract at least some past life information from a person's horoscope.
Okay, yeah, I think it's important to add that I do believe that, yes, you can extract some information out of it, but it's not... It's just kind of helpful. It's helpful. If you have a good astrologist looking at your chart and the right ways, right? You can find some interesting information and you may connect with it. Sometimes you may connect with it heavily. Are you going to get like good answers like you would through like a really solid regression session? Probably not, but you still can get some help out of it, no doubt.
However, like Yogananda, all of the researchers I talked to who were receptive to the idea of astrology warned that it is only the rare and exceptional astrologer who is able to accurately decipher such information.
This is the problem.
Thus, if you decide that you would like to find out past life information by using astrology, shop around for an astrologer as you would for a psychic. When you start looking for an astrologer, through the recommendations of friends, by looking in the yellow pages, or by going to a psychic fair, remember that, as with psychics, you are entering a no-man's land replete both with skilled and sincere individuals and with untalented amateurs and cons.
Yep.
Be discerning,
Exactly.
draw upon all of your intuitive skills and common sense, and try to talk to other clients of a prospective astrologer before parting with your money. Past life exploration with trance entities. Another source of past life information is trance entities, personalities who claim to be human and other, souls who inhabit non-physical levels of reality beyond our physical dimension. These entities communicate through mediums, also known as channels, who go into a trance and then utter or write the words of the entity. Although not available as frequently for individual consultations as physics, the words and teachings of alleged discarnate entities have become very popular in tape and book form. It is difficult to know how seriously one should take these alleged discarnate information sources. Although it is safe to say that scientists as a whole remain extremely skeptical of the trance entities phenomenon, at least some psychologists who have studied the matter have come away convinced that something important and paranormal is occurring. For instance, parapsychologist Lawrence Lushan, who has spent hundreds of hours conversing with such entities, writes in his book Alternate Realities, "The feeling of really talking to someone you had known when they were alive was often so strong it would curl your hair." While admitting that, at the very least, some sort of telepathic phenomenon is frequently in evidence during these conversations, Lushan concedes that he still does know what to make of trance entities. Speaking at a symposium on psychic phenomena at an annual meeting of the American Psychiatric Association, he noted that there are three possible explanations. 1. Such spirits are what they claim to be. 2. They are a multiple personality split off of the medium. Or 3. They are some other phenomenon not yet offered as an explanation. After intensive scrutiny and investigation, Lushan has become convinced that conscious fraud is not a viable explanation in the cases he has studied. In a recent article entitled Close Encounters of a Fourth Kind, Working with Non-Incarnated Entities, Berkeley psychologist Catherine Riddle notes that after years of skepticism, she has also become convinced that discarnate entities are not the product of conscious fraud. Whatever they are, many of the discarnate entities that are manifesting in trance mediums today are entities of impressive wisdom and intelligence and are frequently in possession of information which could only be obtained by paranormal means. They are also, almost without exception, bursting with information about the subtle mechanics of the reincarnation process. Thus, whether they are what they say they are, entities more evolved than us who inhabit non-physical levels of reality beyond our own, or are expressions of some presently poorly understood phenomenon of the human unconscious, they are undeniably another important manifestation of the past life phenomenon. The current abundance of discarnate entities. Equally intriguing is the current abundance of discarnate entities. When I first became interested in the serious study of the paranormal some 17 years ago, I was not overly impressed with the quality of the material delivered by most trance entities. A good deal of it seemed to me so much mumbo-jumbo, so I concentrated my attentions in other areas. Then, in 1981, after the publication of my book Mysticism and the New Physics, I started receiving letters from people noting the similarity between my views and the teachings of Seth, a trance entity channeled by writer Jane Robert. I was aware of Roberts's work and the numerous and very popular Seth books, but had avoided them because of my long-standing aversion for trance material. Nevertheless, my curiosity was aroused, and I decided to take a look at the Seth material. To my great surprise and slight annoyance, I found that Seth eloquently and lucidly articulated a view of reality that I had arrived at only after great effort and an extensive study of both paranormal phenomena and quantum physics, the branch of physics that deals with subatomic particles. Moreover, he went far beyond what I had to say and offered a panoramic view of the cosmic workings of the universe that includes but greatly surpasses our current scientific and spiritual understandings. Of course, there is no way at present to determine whether Seth's views are correct, but they had a great intuitive impact on me and have clearly had a similar impact on the tens of thousands of other readers who anxiously awaited the publication of each new Seth book before Roberts's untimely death in 1984. That Seth has struck a deep chord within the collective human psyche is also evidenced in the numerous Seth-oriented seminars, study groups, and magazines, and the Sethian organizations that have sprouted up both here and around the world. As a result, it should perhaps come as no surprise that Seth's many thousands of pages of dictation are now part of the permanent collection of the Yale University Archive.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw this out there. The whole Seth material, you know, I'm just not going with it. All right, so I'm just putting that out there. You guys can come up with your own opinion. I know there's a number of you out there who probably, connect with it big time, or have connected with it in the past. But it's just, I think yes, you're getting some channeled material, but it's matrix channeled material, filled with truth and lies. But that's the way these things work, right? So again, just use your discernment.
In addition to the richness and seeming authenticity of Seth's unarguably fascinating pronouncements, what was doubly intriguing to me was that the lengthy dictations of a trance entity could be so coherent, original, and intelligible. After unsuccessful attempts to wring any sense out of such trance-dictated classics as William Butler Yeats's Vision and the famous Urantia book, it was both a pleasant and disconcerting surprise. What is even more surprising...
You know what? Wow. The Urantia book. I haven't heard that one in a while. Give me 1 second. Gotta drink some water. So, I got a funny, weird story about how I was introduced to the Urantia book. I have a copy somewhere back there still. I went through it years ago. So, this was probably like 2014-ish, somewhere around there. And I used to go into this local rare bookstore, right? And I would have like these like random conversations with the owner. And I was, at the time, I was looking for rare Tibetan Buddhism books, rare Zen Buddhist books, stuff like that. And I would go into her store maybe like a couple times a month or something. And and so I'm checking out one day, and she goes, "Oh, well, like, what do you, have you ever looked at the Urantia book?" Now, I'd heard of it, right? I didn't know much about it, but I was like, "Oh, maybe, I'll get a copy and look at it some other time." She got really mad at me, like, for not getting a copy and taking it seriously at that point in time. It was the weirdest thing. I'm not even joking. She turned into like some demonic bookstore owner. It was weird as hell. I'm not really doing the story any justice, but it was strange, really strange. And I shared my views. I said, I think that we are in some soul trap. Like I shared it, and like that's when she got really mad. Like, and I was like, and like some kind of reincarnation trap. Like, and she just went off on me. It was so freaking weird because we had kind of like reasonable discussions prior to that. I probably bought like $500-600 worth of books there over the period of like a year or so. I don't know what it was. And it was strange. Really, really strange. She was really pissed off that I wasn't like taking it seriously. I mean, I didn't say like I wouldn't read the whole thing because I eventually did, but it was just weird. Anyways, that's my little story about the Urantia book. Make of that what you will. It's just for shits and giggles.
As William Butler Yeats's vision and the famous Urantia book, it was both a pleasant and disconcerting surprise. What is even more surprising is that trance entities are suddenly starting to pop up everywhere. Not only do many of them seem to be as level-headed and eerily wise as Seth, but they are also attracting increasing numbers of followers. For example, in the early 1970s, an otherwise normal businessman named Jack Purcell started channeling an entity named Lazarus. Like Seth, Lazarus also has much to say about the reincarnation process, although unlike Seth, Lazarus claims never to have experienced physical existence upon the earth. Like Seth, Lazarus also has accumulated quite a following for himself, and a few minutes spent listening to the maturity and eerie wisdom that comes through on any one of the many Lazarus tapes quickly reveals why. Psychologist Catherine Riddle says that she became convinced that there was something important going on in the trance medium phenomenon after spending a year listening to the teachings of an entity named Dia, who speaks through a Bay Area sensitive named Richard Rial. And since 1981, a Midwesterner named Mark Zweigler has had an entity speaking through him who calls itself Jacob. Indeed, there is currently such a deluge of provocative and interesting trance material being delivered through various channelers around the country that Roberts' longtime editor Tam Mossman has founded a magazine devoted to exploring the phenomenon, metapsychology.
Let me just say right now, just to save you guys time. You, of course, could do whatever the heck you want, right? But channeling, I'm telling you, it is a dirty, grimy rabbit hole that is filled with bullshit. Utterly filled to the absolute brim with bullshit. It counteracts like so many of the data patterns that we talk about and all these other experiencers. You get a plethora of stories, feedback, experiences through all the different topics we discuss, right? But then you go to channeling, and it is like times a million. Complete so much horse shit. I'm sorry. And you know what? I'm not even going to say that they're all full of shit because I know there's some real ones out there, right? But there could be ones that are still bullshitting and still getting some channel message, but that doesn't mean it's like a divine communication or that it's truth. So many people like just buy this stuff as cold, hard truth. Like it can't be flawed. It can't be coming from some demonic, creepy, weird matrix entity. No. It's coming from the fucking Palladians. You better listen to it. You know, or the tall whites, you know, or the grays, or the insectoids. You know, I can go on and on and on about this shit. Like, just drives me crazy. The one that to this day, I occasionally I'll click on his videos because I want to laugh, right? So I'll just be like, maybe I'm having a bad day or I'm just bored and I need to laugh, right? I'll put on those Bashir videos and I will laugh my ass off. That guy, man, he has got a hell of an operation running over there. Like, and he's got thousands and thousands and thousands of people buying into that bullshit. It's complete horseshit. I mean, I don't know. Some of you have been around a long time, but I did mention this years ago that on like Halloween or maybe like some stream I would come on and I would do a fake Bashar stream, like where I would pretend to be Bashar and like just do like some like fake channeling, pretending to be him, right? Maybe someday it'll happen, but like he cracks me up. He cracks me up. But he's completely full of shit. But man, that guy, he's just I don't know how he gets away with it. I don't know how he gets away with it, but he does. People eat it up. Like David Wilcock. Although David Wilcock, his empire seems to be crumbling by the day. And it should have not even took off in the first place in the modern internet age, because he was debunked back in the late 90s, right? And it's only gotten worse and worse with each passing year. And somehow he still has a following. Somehow. Granted, not as much as he used to. And we could talk about, anyways, on and on and on. We could talk about all these clowns. It's just crazy. Absolutely freaking crazy. Bashar. Let me hook up to... I can't even do it right now. It's too much. It's too much.
The Journal of Discarnate Intelligence. According to Mossman, the trance medium phenomenon is on the rise. This does seem to be something that's widespread, and yes, it's increasing by leaps and bounds. Also, the material's getting better. A lot of the early trance stuff I saw was pretty god-awful. A lot of the stuff you see still is, and yet a lot of the material now is good enough that I can put together a whole journal from amateurs. Mossman knows whereof he speaks. After 7 years of watching Roberts go into trance, he started going into trances himself and has since become the channel for an entity named James. As he explains, James first appeared one evening in 1975 while Mossman was sitting around after dinner with friends in New York. All of a sudden, I felt like a rheostat was being turned down. My consciousness was just being pushed down. I had put myself into trances before, but this was different. Something else was turning me down. So I got where I needed to go. I got very small, that's the best way I can put it, and everything just tightened up into a little point of consciousness. Then I started to speak, and slowly my voice changed. The first thing the entity did after manifesting in Mossman was to turn to one of Mossman's friends and say, "You can speak for me too if you want." Days later, the man who had been addressed also went into trance and found the entity starting to speak through him. After a few moments, it then resumed speaking through Mossman, and when it did this, Mossman's astonished friends asked what the entity would like to be called. On being informed by the entity that it didn't matter what they called it, one of Mossman's friends chose the name James at random, and James the entity has been ever since. In subsequent trance sessions, James has revealed that, like many such alleged discarnate entities, he is a plurality of beings, a gestalt of consciousness that now inhabits a non-physical level of reality that is no longer subject to the bounds of time. Although it is difficult for those of us who are still constrained by time to imagine what timelessness would be like, James alleges that because he is through with incarnating in a linear time frame, he can actually be viewed as Tam Mossman's future self. Or in James's own words, "I am downstream of Tam, you might say, the sum total of a number of entities of whom Tam is one. Tarn's experiences flow not down but into me, along with input from a wide variety of other entities and forms of consciousness." In another sense, I am a later Tam. Tam is an embryonic me. And in a way quite easy for you to understand, I like to take good care of my early versions, for their continued health greatly increases my own well-being and range of abilities. What discarnate entities tell us about reincarnation? It should be stated that discarnate entities do not always agree with one another in their assessments of the reincarnation process. Similarly, many such entities also caution that their communications are more or less restricted by the vocabulary and understanding of their human channels. Nonetheless, in spite of their varying names, sources of origin, and distinct philosophical leanings, many trance entities are in surprising accordance in their overall descriptions of the mechanics of reincarnation and the after-death state. For example, just as modern physics is beginning to assert that consciousness is intrinsic to the very reality of subatomic particles and hence the entire material universe, many discarnate entities also stress that physical reality is ultimately created by consciousness. Because it is created by consciousness, they assert that we, each of us, ultimately create our own reality and destiny through our belief systems, although they concede that the belief systems which sculpt our destinies include not only our conscious precepts and understandings, but also our unconscious ones, including those that we still allow to influence us from past lives. Our creation of our own reality is ultimately the basis of karma as well. In this view, past life phobias, fears, worries, and guilt continue to sculpt and shape our current life because they are embedded in our unconscious belief systems about ourselves. For instance, if you have a past life memory of having robbed someone and do not make peace with this memory in some positive and productive way, you may continue to believe that you are unworthy and deserve to be punished. This belief would be responsible for any apparent karmic punishment you experience. In other words, there is no such thing as cosmic punishment. There is only self-punishment, which can always be ameliorated by accessing and changing outworn belief systems. Similarly, our current and future reality is also programmed and created by our beliefs and attitude. Discarnate entities have thought-provoking things to say about many of the other aspects of reincarnation as well. For instance, Seth asserts that our present concept of the soul is a primitive idea that can scarcely begin to explain the creativity or reality from which mankind's being comes. The basic picture that Seth, James, and many other discarnate entities offer instead is that, although each human entity does possess a certain integrity and wholeness, which is roughly analogous to possessing an individual soul, ultimately we are beings without borders, complex and constantly fluctuating systems of impulses, self-awareness, and propensities, which are in turn part of a dauntingly vast spiritual ecology, a complex and infinitely interpenetrating ocean of consciousness that permeates not only all corners of our own universe, but numerous other universes and timeless realms as well. Because of the complexity of this intricately interlocking spiritual ecosystem, and because it encompasses realities in which space and time as we know them cease to exist, the answers that discarnate entities give to questions about the mechanics of reincarnation are often startling. For example, many discarnate entities assert that far from being frozen in a linear sequence of time, our past lives are actually occurring simultaneously, and it is only our belief that the past is frozen and unalterable that keeps us from realizing that at an unconscious level we are communicating with our past and future selves all of the time. To emphasize this point, rather than use the term past lives, James suggests that we employ the term adjacent lives, for, as he explains, the life that is affecting us the most at any given moment may not be our most recent incarnation, but can be any one of our multitude of existences, no matter how seemingly remote in what we currently perceive as space and time. Indeed, he asserts that instead of being laid out in a neat line, our various incarnations are actually part of a much more active and unstable arrangement. As he explains, the easiest analogy to imagine is a roll of pennies, each with a different consecutive date from 1800 to 1985, all stacked in chronological order. Some exuberant, youthful hand knocks over the stack, and the coins roll and scatter, coming to rest everywhere, atop each other, next to one another, heads up or down. 1896 may be right next to 1930. 18 May 15th lie atop 1964. 19 May 18th have rolled off under the bureau and never be heard from again. And so it is with your lives, your incarnations. The greater being that is your oversoul is constantly rattling the spare change in its pockets, and so your present life is constantly coming into contact with other past and future lives that may be quite distant in terms of chronological time, but extraordinarily intimate in terms of their psychological presence. According to James, it is when two of these coins, or past lives, stick together that problems surface, such as those that come to the fore during a past life regression. By realizing that we can birth next to any past or adjacent life that we choose, we can access positive past life influences and experiences. In a recent conversation, James gently chided me for limiting my focus only to the subject of past or adjacent lives and specifically requested that I include another point in this book. He feels that it is important for human beings to know that we are affected by more than just our own past incarnations. Just as we are constantly and unconsciously extending our psychic roots into our various adjacent lives, because we are so interconnected with the living fabric of the universe, we are also extending our roots into even stranger places, into the Gestalt consciousness or zeitgeist of the various historical eras we have inhabited in previous incarnations, into the impressions and feelings of people who are near to us emotionally or psychically, and even into various non-human sources of nourishment. As James puts it, given the right conditions and psychic urgencies, you can be more in touch with a trilobite than you can be with your most recent Victorian existence if you learn more from your sojourn into the trilobite world. You notice I did not say your life as a trilobite. You notice I said your sojourn in the trilobite world. Thus, according to James, we possess the ability to do far more than just access and learn from our own adjacent lives. If we truly desire to open the floodgates of our experience, we can do so through the total approval and appreciation of our fellow beings. As he puts it, that is the secret. That is why they say that love is the key. Indeed it is. For once you love what your fellow human beings are and can do whatever they do, then you open it up to where you are able to feel, drink from, be nourished by their experiences as well as your own in lives that you have not yet begun to live. Discarnate entities such as Seth and James have much more to say about the workings of reincarnation, the after-death state, the nature of the psyche, but the model of spiritual reality they offer is far too rich and extensive to present here in its entirety. However, if any of the foregoing information has piqued your interest, and you would like to explore the subject of discarnate entities further, I highly recommend any of the Seth books and the Lazarus tape. A sample copy of Metapsychology, the Journal of Discarnate Intelligence, can be obtained for $6.
You can skip the Seth Speaks. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
By writing Metapsychology, the Journal of Discarnate Intelligence. In addition to articles on and by many of the better trance information sources extant today, one especially noteworthy feature of the journal is a question and answer section in which questions pertaining to past lives and other subjects such as politics, personal development, and paranormal phenomena are asked of different discarnate entities, and their answers are compared. The questions are not personal but are of general interest, and the answer compiled from public channeling demonstrations and seminars as well as private sessions. The addresses for contributing trance channelers who do private consultations and past life readings are also listed in the journal. Although it is obvious that further research is required to determine authenticity of trance information sources, at the very least the pronouncements of discarnate entities provide interesting working hypotheses for some of the greatest mystical questions of all time. Similarly, if research shows that discarnate entities are nothing more than manifestations of the unconscious minds of their channelers, the data we gather on this phenomenon cannot help but teach us more about ourselves and the mysterious workings of the human brain. However, if discarnate entities turn out to be what they claim, such a discovery would have implications far greater than Columbus's discovery of the New World, or even humankind's first step on the moon. In short, we may be forced to completely reassess our image of ourselves and our role in the cosmos. Put another way, we may be forced to heed the words of an unnamed discarnate entity channeled by a Philadelphia-based actor named Doug Wing. You are part of a vaster reality, part of a vaster and greater you, more than the sum of all your parts, and less than you can be. You are more involved in your own existence than your conscious reality has allowed you to believe. You are a vaster personality than will fit within the belief systems of your known world, more than could possibly be envisioned by the science of your day and your present reality. Therefore, you must strive to enlarge your mold, your cast of belief, and begin to understand the greater potential and meaning of your present existence. Make an effort to believe in your own greater reality, and you will begin on a journey of wonder that will reveal more than you can presently believe. Part 4. Closing words. The dangers of past life exploration. On several occasions throughout this book, I have stressed that traumatic past life memories should only be explored under the guidance of a trained past life therapist. To enable you to avoid such memories in your explorations, I have provided various safeguards, such as the guardian figure and white light exercises. However, memories of extremely traumatic events are not the only dangers that you may encounter as you unravel the secrets of your own reincarnational past. For example, you may uncover a past life in which you were a thief or miser, or a previous incarnation in which you were ill-treated or even murdered by someone you now know. If these are not dealt with in a healthy manner, such discoveries can lead to feelings of guilt, fear, and resentment toward family members and friends. There are several ways of turning these discoveries into positive experiences. If you do not believe in the reality of past lives, view the memory that you have uncovered as an allegory or a symbolic message, your dreams. This approach can also be employed with troubling past life memories. For instance, if you dream you recall a past life as a miser, ask yourself what the image of a miser represents to you. Then examine yourself and try to determine what you are being miserly about. It may be money or material possessions, or it may be time, affection, or compliment. Above all, don't just feel guilty over finding out that you view yourself as a miser. Your unconscious mind gave you the information because at some level you decided that it was a part of yourself that you wanted to change. Use the information to institute that change. If you believe in the reality of reincarnation,
Yeah, I think that's a big one, right? Use the information to institute that change if you need to. I've also said, like, if you run into past life traumas, situations, relationships that are connected to this current life, that, make peace with those. Make peace with those that are in your life now, in this lifetime, that you may have already had problems with, right? Just try to get all that out of the way. Like, just, if you need to apologize for something, get on the horn, call, and let it out, right? Just try to solve those problems so they're out of the way, But, do what you feel is best for you.
at some level you decided that it was a part of yourself that you wanted to change. Use the information to institute that change. If you believe in the reality of reincarnation, then it is even more crucial that you do not allow unpleasant discoveries to result in feelings of guilt, fear, or resentment. If we have all lived many dozens or even hundreds of incarnations, it is only logical to expect that each of us has been, at one time or another, a murderer, a thief, a miser, a prostitute, and a traitor, just as we have also lived many lives of kindness and generosity and honesty. According to many belief systems that accept the reality of reincarnation, the purpose of this panoramic existence is not to fill the individual with guilt and remorse, but to allow the soul to grow, to teach it to view life from every angle. As was suggested in the previous chapter, negative emotions appear to be the only cause of whatever punishment we experience as a result of our wrongful actions. Again, the overriding lesson is that we are not meant to suffer because of our misdeeds, but to learn from them and integrate what we have learned into our current life. A good example of how to deal with an unpleasant memory is given by California parapsychologist and past life therapist Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove. During a state of past life awareness, Mishlove remembered a life
Dr.
as a
Mishlove.
Japanese warlord, a petty tyrant. Had he dealt with the memory in an unhealthy manner, he might have allowed himself to be racked by guilt, but instead he chose to integrate the memory.
Okay, so a really good channel. There's a lot of gems on Jeffrey Mishlove's YouTube channel, New Thinking Aloud and Thinking Aloud, the original series. They're divided up into two YouTube channels. He also has a website. I think it's newthinkingaloud.tv or New Thinking Aloud or thinkingaloud.tv. Anyways, you can find it. Just look up New Thinking Aloud on YouTube. There's a lot of good stuff on that channel. There's also some bullshit on there, of course, but, you know, weed through it. But you can find some really, really just excellent researchers, amazing information. It's definitely a solid channel overall, you know? And he's still with us, so he's getting up there, but he's still around.
As he states, in the therapeutic process, I was able to see that even this seemingly despicable lifetime was part of a larger purpose, and that much good came of it. Therefore, I came to accept myself as having done these things without feeling any guilt, and also fully prepared to accept my vestiges of karmic consequences, which may remain to be satisfied.
See, I fully accept it. Fully accept it. And just, you know, hey, it's my karma. I got to deal with it. And he still believes all of this to this day. I've listened to him enough recently where, you know, for years and years, I've listened to him, read his books, and he's still in this train of thought. But, you know, what can you do? I think for the most part, he's got a good heart. He's a little off on some thinking with considering his New Thinking Aloud, but he's off on a lot of you know, like stuff with the political bullshit, and like someone as smart as him and is in tune as who's been in this for so long should be way past all that, way past it. And I can go on some other stuff. And look, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? The bottom line is most of the time you're listening to who he's interviewing, right? But he's got incredible insights too. But, you know, it's always important to put both the positive and negatives out there. So if you're not familiar with his work and you go in listening, don't get put off by, you know, if you hear something he says that, you know, we all know is total horseshit, right? And but for the most part, solid content there. You know, guest selection could be off here and there, but other than that, good stuff.
Karmic consequences which may remain to be satisfied. This is how any unpleasant memory should be dealt with. Instead of allowing it to cause further pain, diffuse it. If you find that someone has done you wrong in a past life, forgive them. If you find that you did something wrong, forgive yourself and integrate what you have learned into your current experience. See all seeming evils in a larger context of learning and growth. Although not as extreme as other problems, another danger of past life exploration is simple intellectual disorientation. Many researchers report that even after they accept the basic premise of reincarnation, the anomalies and surprises they continue to discover while investigating the past life phenomenon seem never-ending. These include journeys to parallel much the same as the situations encountered in a dream. For example, if you dream that you catch your spouse in the act of stealing something from you, it does not necessarily mean you think your spouse is literally a thief. It may be your unconscious mind's way of telling you that you harbor some repressed hostility toward your spouse, or that you feel your spouse is relying on you too heavily in some matter. Invariably, the best way to deal with the dream is to search your own feelings for the source of the image, and then discuss the matter openly with the person in question instead of suppressing it so that it manifests only in symbolic landscape of your dreams. This approach can also be employed with troubling past life memories. Even putting aside such anomalies, the basic reincarnation cosmology people report while in a state of past life awareness seldom matches their conscious beliefs about reincarnation. There are several ways of resolving this problem. One can deny the validity of all information reported while in states of past life awareness. One can accept part of it and reject other parts, and try not to lose too much sleep over the arbitrariness of one's decision. Or one can accept the simple truth that there is no single correct picture of reality, only a multitude of different pictures. This is the point of view argued by University of Massachusetts astronomer Edward Harrison in his book, The Masks of the Universe. He maintains that we can never arrive at a single and correct picture of the universe, only a series of changing models of it. In their book Einstein's Space and Van Gogh's Sky, Lawrence Lushan and physicist...
Please remember that, this book was written, I think, in like 87? Yeah. It was published in January of 1987.
In their book Einstein's Space and Van Gogh's Sky, Lawrence Lushan and physicist Henry Marginaw offer a similar point of view and even address directly the complicated issue of altered states of consciousness. As they see it, one of the gravest challenges facing the human race is to learn to accept that different domains of experience, such as waking experience or a state of past life awareness, have always and will always provide us with radically different pictures of reality. Lushan and Marginaw argue eloquently that we should not try to determine which one is correct, but accept both for what they are, different facets of this incredibly multifaceted universe in which we live. Lushan and Marginaw believe that it is crucial for our growth as human beings to learn how to shift from waking experience into altered states of consciousness without being bothered by the disparity between the different views of reality offered by each. They state, all the evidence we have is that this shifting is essential to us. Certainly it is universal, it occurs in every culture and in every age we know of. If we encourage the use of alternate realities, as in meditation, play, serious music, and so forth, we increase the ability of human beings to reach toward new potentials. If we prevent it, we damage these people. Thus, if you find that the picture of reality you discover in states of past life awareness is different from the one you have grown accustomed to in your waking state, do not be too disturbed that you cannot hammer the two together. Parts of them may overlap, and other parts may not. Accept only the useful parts of each, and don't worry about the rest. Or, in the words of Zen Buddhism, accept without accepting, and believe without believing.
It's a great ending, right?
Your past.
That's a great ending. So we did make it through the rest of the book. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it, but I just kind of let some of it go towards the end there. And I appreciate you all being here for the series. I just want to put out a reminder that the monthly members live stream for February is actually tomorrow, Sunday, March 1st. And then the one for March will be Sunday, March 29th. And that's going to, both of them will be starting around 7:30, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, somewhere around there. That's 19:30, 20 Eastern. Okay. So it's great having y'all. Thank you for being here. Please consider subscribing if you're not already, hitting the like button and all that fun stuff. If you've enjoyed the series, maybe consider sharing the playlist that's out there on your own social media feeds. That does help share the channel. This information on my channel is just not found unless it's shared by viewers like you on Discord, on Facebook, Twitter, all those sites, right? It helps tremendously. So please consider if you find anything really helpful to you and you think it might help others, kind of open up to something like this, send it on over to them. And appreciate y'all being here, and I will see you hopefully soon. I have some experiencer cases I've been really wanting to get into, and I'm hoping maybe next Saturday, maybe the 7th, or yeah, maybe the Friday the 6th or 7th. Definitely not Sundays. I got a kind of a busy month this month, and some upcoming medical treatments and things. But I'm gonna try to do more if I can. So keep an eye out for the community tab, and see each other soon, hopefully. And much love to you all right? Thank you, all of you, and appreciate you. Much love. See you soon.